We're going to call this meeting to order of the Monroe County Council for this Tuesday, March 26, 2024. I'd ask all folks in the room kind of bring the conversations to a resolution a little bit. We'll get started. Sorry for keeping you waiting here. This is the Monroe County Council. We've got here with us in the room Councilor Iverson, Councilor Crossley, Councilor McKippen, and Councilor Hawk with us. And I think we've got some other councilors on their way. And Councilor Munson as well. I'm going to invite on our agenda next for all folks. We'll take just a second here. I'm going to invite us to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you all join me in that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. Today on item 3, it's our adoption of the agenda. I do want to note that we have on here an item 19A and 19B concerning ARPA, that we have no ARPA items, and so I'm going to entertain, if no objection, an order to move those to the next meeting, which would be April 9th.
No objection.
No objections? All right, so ordered. Any other changes to our agenda that any council member wanted to make? No, we're all good? Awesome. We're going to then next go to item number 4. And on the agenda, we have got public comment for items not on the agenda. So there will be a time limit of 3 minutes per speaker for anything that folks hear either in the Nat U Hill or via Teams. By the way, everybody, when I gesture like that, I'm pointing to the screen that's got Teams. It means nothing to anybody but me, and I apologize for that. So any public comment that folks want to make for items not on the agenda, we're going to invite those in the room to come forward, and we'll take those one at a time, or raise your hand on Teams. I also want to know all are welcome in the Nat U Hill room in the Monroe County Courthouse. So the public, we look forward to hearing from you, anything on your mind, not on the agenda. All right, I'm not seeing any takers, so we'll move along with the agenda. Number 5 is on our agenda is department updates. And this is going to be for any department wishing to do an update. We'll have a limit of 10 minutes. I've got John am I saying it right? Baton. Sorry for that. From the Surveyor's Office is going to give us an update. And welcome. And Commissioner Julie Thomas is with us.
And is this on? It is. TSD, can you make my screen shareable?
And just to know, our wonderful pro tem, Councilor Crossley, is kind of keeping track to keep us moving towards all the items that I know folks have come out for.
Okay, looks like my screen is there. Hi, everybody. I'm John Baton. I'm the GIS coordinator for Monroe County. I'm talking today about the Monroe County Broadband Challenge, which is an initiative that Monroe County government and the GIS division is running to try to get essentially federal funding distributed equitably, that's a long word, across Monroe County. In 2021, the bipartisan infrastructure bill basically allocated about $42 billion to the federal government to try to increase broadband's infrastructure across the United States. How this works is they use the FCC's broadband map, which is a map that's generated by essentially broadband providers. What BEAD is looking for are areas that are not included on the map to fund. Now, what we're doing is challenging the map essentially and saying that there's areas included on the map as being served that are actually underserved or unserved. And so this process is a state initiative. And it puts a lot of onus on basically citizens of Monroe County and any challenger. And what I mean by puts a lot of onus on them is that there's a lot of steps that kind of take place for this. So thanks to Ven and Greg Crone from TSD, we do have a website set up, and this is www.co.monroe.in.us/broadband, and it brings you right to the broadband challenge. We've created in the GIS division a story map, which is what you're seeing here, with some text getting into what's going on. And we set up a map essentially that people can either zoom into the map or type their address in. It is loading here. What I'm going to do is just show you guys how easy it is to actually do this challenge. I'm going to type in my work address here, which is 501 North Morton Street. What it does is it's generating this already. And so if your address shows up on this search bar, or if your house shows up as a green point on the map, it means you're an eligible challenger. So once you click 501 North Morton Street, you get this great pop-up saying, congratulations, you can take part in the Monroe County Broadband Challenge. You click here and this brings you to a survey. I'll note on this main website map here too, I have some screenshots that kind of show what you can expect to see. And I have I would say probably a Emmy-worthy video tutorial explaining the process of the Broadband Challenge itself. So this is the survey itself. What the survey requires, or what the test requires, is for participants to take 3 speed tests over a 3-day period. And so that's crucial, is over a 3-day period. We've had a lot of participants already submit data that they've done 3 tests sequentially, so 3 tests in the same day. Those are basically not good. You can't use that. So that's one of the issues. I've been trying to reach out to folks who have done that. The speed test is pretty quick. I'm linking to this Ookla free internet speed test. This is a free test. I'm going to hit go here. While this is running in the background, I'll just kind of explain what else we need. It's just your name, your email, internet service provider. I'll show you where that is on the speed test. The IP address, and then your test dates, times, and your speed. The Indiana Broadband Office requires screenshots of the speed tests as well, and so those are important to generate. And then also a statement showing kind of what speed tier you're subscribing to, right? So those are 4 things that challengers need to submit. And luckily, we have a great, brilliant GIS technician in the GIS division in the surveyor's office who's generated a script that all of this material that we're getting here is getting kind of downloaded and packaged in a way that makes it a lot easier for us to challenge. And so I submitted our first challenges last Friday. It was cumbersome for us as well. But again, this is a great way for Monroe County citizens to ensure that BEAD funding is going to be essentially going to all of the people that could use it. You can see right now too, it looks like my speed, any speed that's under 100 megabytes per second download, under 20 megabytes per second upload is eligible for the challenge as well. That's puts you in the, it's considered underserved branch. And so what I would do here is a screenshot of this. This includes my internet provider address or IP address, and then also my internet provider. So yeah, the goal here is to get kind of word out about this, and then also to encourage people to participate and to encourage people to follow the directions when they do participate. It's in big, bold letters. And so I know following directions is challenging somehow. So that's it for me.
Yeah, I would just like to, if I might, thank John Baton and everyone at the GIS office for their hard work, because we kind of asked them to help, and they've just organized this so beautifully for residents. But a couple of notes: that postcards will be going out to those who the FCC assumes are served, and those should be going out this week. But the state is put us on a very short timeline, their choice, and all of this closes on April 14th. So it's really important to get the word out as quickly as possible. There's a email address, but also a phone number for folks if they're struggling to follow the directions or to do the download or whatever it might be. And I want to thank City of Bloomington. They're working. Any of the residents who call that voicemail within the city are getting transferred over to the city's equity office for broadband. And I want to thank Area 10 and the RSVP program, because they're helping folks locally, and I may need to go out with my laptop too. So we'll see what happens. But we've covered all the bases, but the most important thing is to get the word out. So anything you can do on your social media, any contacts you have with any neighborhood associations, anything like that, please get the word out. But you're going to see posters all around town. They've been delivered to the township offices and Area 10, and so many places I can't even name them all. So they're out there, and the postcards are coming out too.
Thank you very much. Council, did you have any questions? Councilor Wiltz.
I do. Thank you for doing this, and I've already participated. It is cumbersome. I will just say that. And my question is along the lines of the following directions, because I believe what I did was I had every intention of coming back that second or third day, but I missed a day. So it's like I did the first, third, and fourth days. Does that negate what I did?
No, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
It just needs to be 3 days that are not the same day, essentially. So
Cool.
we're trying to encourage people to do it 3 days in a row. So
Yeah.
there's not a,
Yeah, so you don't forget,
Yep.
like I did. But also, I noticed my scores varied wildly. And the first 2 times I did it, they were way low. And then the last time I did it, they were way high. Is that typical, or does that mean that they're not going to be validated in the challenge process?
It's the whole process is confusing, and those speeds kind of are all over the place. I know I just did it right here, and it said like 70 megabytes or megabits download speed, and I know we get much higher than that here. And then it had the upload speed a lot higher, and so I feel very bad for the Indiana Broadband Office employees that actually have to go through and verify all of this, because there's going to be a lot of paperwork happening after the fact. In terms of those speed tests, I think it's kind of depends on the provider and how it goes.
Well, thanks again for putting this
Yep.
all together.
Thank you very much. Councilor Iverson.
So this ends on the 14th. That's when the residents of the community can put in their speeds and all that. What happens after the 14th? Will we know that our community is still low, underserved, or can you kind of walk us briefly through that?
Sure, yeah. So these challenges we actually submit. So once people fill out the survey, we get the data, we download it. I'm doing it every Friday, and then submitting the challenges. I'll be doing that up until the 14th. The challenge actually ends on the 17th, and so we get some stragglers that come in afterwards. That all goes to the Indiana Broadband Office, where their employees are going to be going through all of this data, multiple screenshots. I've had pictures that people would write down their speed test on paper and take a picture of that and submit it. That's not data that I'm doing a little bit of vetting ahead of time. They're going to see if these are actually eligible challenges. And if they are eligible challenges, then I believe it goes to the internet provider to kind of defend the process. There's multiple challenges that are going on here. We picked the speed one because it seemed to be the easiest, which is kind of wild considering the process. But there's also challenges that providers are doing here as well. So saying we actually cover this. The process is basically it's going to go back for review to the Indiana Broadband Office and then back to us, and will notify us whether or not these are legitimate challenges. Yep.
And if I might add, the postcards are only going to addresses where the FCC thinks people are served and served with fast enough speed. If you're not served, you're not going to get a postcard, and we already know it. You're already on the map. And those are going to be managed as part of this process by the state of Indiana. My understanding is going to be a reverse auction kind of thing where they're going to ensure that a provider does provide service using those federal dollars. I don't know how that part of the process works, and it's not been clearly defined yet in their paperwork.
I see the surveyor's got his hand raised on Teams. Again, I'm gesturing, but Teams means these screens, and I apologize. Mr. Surveyor, do you have any comments? TSD, can you see if the surveyor's unmuted at all? Tron Enright Randolph, hands up.
Okay, there we go. Thanks, Trent. Getting quite savvy with the virtual meeting and kind of anticipating what was going on. Thanks, TSD, for unmuting me. I don't really want to take too far from the project, but as a departmental update, this is kind of a project that we're helping assist and even taking the lead in some regards with compiling the information. I don't want to take away from that. What I really want to bring to the council's attention is Your support with helping us create that GIS technician allows more flexibility for the coordinator to take leads of projects like this that will be very significant for the community. So I just wanted to really clearly state that without your support, we would still be a GIS division of 1. We're now a GIS division of 2, and we're able to take on more larger county projects. And I just wanted to make sure that I brought awareness to that. And thank you for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Surveyor. We appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we appreciate this update. Obviously, we need to get the word out on this. And what's that? Oh, Councilor Munson, I apologize.
So our house has a green dot on your map, and we're notably underserved because I complained about it to anybody who will listen. And you told me that I didn't need to go through all this process of the challenge. Is that, I didn't understand that correctly, did I?
If your house shows up as a green dot, it means that the FCC
Already know.
no, the FCC means that the FCC thinks that you are being served with good internet. And so if your house shows up as a green dot,
Okay.
that's what's going on. If it's a red dot, then it means that they already know that you're underserved or unserved.
Well, I think we must have the worst internet connection in the county, and I will pursue that. But I was helping a neighbor go through the challenge, and where things broke down for her was doing a screenshot. She had never taken a screenshot before, and she didn't know how to attach it to the form. Do you have different instructions on that, or?
Yeah, there are some. There's some in the video that I have. There's kind of instructions on how to do it. The challenge with that is that people use 5 or 6 different types of browsers,
Yeah.
and so I kind of advocate for either a screenshot or using just the print screen function. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Oh.
It's another one of those
Right.
challenges on the user. So
Yep, it is a challenge for the user, for sure. People do email on that.
Thank you.
thanks.
Our assessors here, Judy Sharp, come on forward. Welcome to the assessor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Shoot, I did forget something. Hang on. I'll do it for you. Oh, you're gonna do it, Kim? Thanks. Kim, give each of the council people, and if you need one, we've got more made. I decided to come up tonight and speak to the council very briefly about the workload.
Thank you.
Everybody see my glasses? Radar screen now for a few months, since August. I wanted just to show you what we have done since January in this office. I'll be very honest with you, it's probably been the worst year that this office has ever gone through. And not that you can do much about the legislature and everything, but if you could, it'd be appreciated. We're always their number one target. And this year, what they have done is, I've laid it out there. We have approximately 59,000 parcels in Monroe County. The reason we have such a small parcel count is since I became assessor in '91, one of the laws says that the assessor shall combine all contiguous properties. I've done that since 1991. We've never kept a rolling figure, but it's anywhere between 20 and 30,000 parcels that we've combined over the years. Now that works a couple of different ways. It keeps our parcel count down, but when you have a smaller parcel count, all your contracts are based upon that parcel count. You all know that. So if we hadn't, we'd be up to 90 to 100,000. So your contracts would be so much more, higher for everybody, highway, everyone. Other assessors have never done that. They ignore that rule. We don't. So that's why we only have 50 some odd thousand. Equalization is something that we've had to start doing in the office, and this year we really started it, and we really didn't start it until January. And we equalized 885 parcels. That doesn't sound like a lot, but the parcels equalization is when, let's just take fast food restaurants. Everybody knows what a fast food, McDonald's. All McDonald's should have the same grade and design and condition, all of that kind of stuff. The only thing that might be a little bit different, age and location, because land could be more. So same thing goes for the banks. A bank's a bank, but it's the same thing. The big deal that happened to us at the end of December that we're actually reeling, and a couple of you have been down at the office and seen this. We have over 700 apartment complexes in this community, probably the highest in the state. I don't even think Marion has that many. With that being said, the legislators changed how we have to assess apartments. What we've done since we've started this, we have to create these models. I know you guys aren't going to understand a lot of this. It's a lot of verbiage, but it is very important that you kind of understand it. By the time that we have weeded through all the apartments, the ones that are actually going to be impacted is about 492. We have hand-touched 492 parcels, apartment complexes, everywhere from your mom and pops to the new $200 million, that we have a couple of those apartment complexes. We've had to revalue all of those. We're in the process of that right now. We also, mobile home parks have gone crazy, if you didn't know that, throughout the United States. It's nothing for a mobile home park that used to be assessed for $1 million to be selling now for close to $20 million, not just once a year, but 2 or 3 times a year. That's happening. So we have to handle all of that. So this is kind of the stuff. Trending, when I'm talking trending, we do this annually every year. We do 1/4 of the parcels each year. That's reassessment. Trending, we have to trend everything. We had 28,000 that we had sales on. That's not really true, but that's what we've had to touch. Land, we've had to change land throughout the whole county once again, which we do every year, especially to get all of these values to where they need to be. The other thing the legislators did to the assessors throughout the state is we have to change all of the caps. The 1%, 2%, 3% caps have to hand touch every parcel. That's all of them, to decide where we put the cap right now. And this is going to impact Bree's office also. We have to do it before she can do her job. And all this has to be done by the end of April. Okay, this is almost the end of March. I have to send my my data up to my contractor that mails out Form 11s. We're going to mail the Form 11s out on the 28th of April. I have to have that 2 weeks before. So I have basically 3 weeks left to finish all this. We'll get it done. I'm also understaffed again by 2 people. We won't name names, but she's sitting over there. That bless her heart, because the people have gone to a better place. Anyway. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to share this. That's a lot of stuff classified for us. We put 90 new places into classified, which takes about a day for Allie to do all of that work, working directly with the state forester on that. It's a lot of data, but it boils down to, once again, the 4th year in a row, we've added over $1 billion with a B of new valuation to this county. I don't think too many counties can say that. It's actually more than that. It's $1.3 billion. We're not finished yet. We still have 2 or 3 apartment complexes. Oh, the other thing we found is when we were going through all of this, that our commercial buildings, like around the square, every place, not offices, but you see it, all these commercials. We're going to have to hand touch every one of those because they're so undervalued. We've had so many new sales with that. So, and then also each year depreciation kicks in, and the state hasn't changed our cost tables in 6 or 7 years. So the depreciation has made them even fall lower. So we're hand touching over 400 commercial properties and probably doubling their assessment, or at least we're not going to lose value on them. That isn't included here. So if you have any questions, I've given you a real short little tutorial. You get this one, this WIP value from me every year. It's going to change a little bit. Touchdown Terrace, we just got, we're putting it on today or this week. It's going to be 37, almost 38 million. We're still drawing that out. So you add just another few million to the billion. Any questions? I'm tired just talking about it. And really, it's not me, it's my staff, and I think most of you know that. I probably have one of the best staffs in the state. I know I do, and I'm very grateful for them.
Councilor Hawk, I think, has got a question.
I know that many of us want to take a look at that when it gets here, but could, for the folks at home, remind them what Form 11 is and what to do when they see it, and don't just throw it in the trash, and understand what year it actually represents?
Form 11 is something that we have to send out every year at the same time. They have to be out by March or May 1st, so you have to send them out like the 28th, 29th of April. This is your new assessed valuation for taxes due in 25. This is your assessment for 24, pay 25. You have 45 days, well, really you have till June the 15th, which is a little bit longer than 45 days, to appeal if you think your assessment is wrong. You just can't call me and say my assessment's wrong. You've got to give me some real certifiable probative evidence. I've got pretty good evidence that your assessment's probably not wrong. But we have this conversation annually. Last year we had close to 700 phone calls. That's not appeals, phone calls. That's how you start with informals. So we did about 700. By the time it came to the board, Property Tax Assessment Board of Appeals, we had less than 100 that went to the board. Out of those, the board has already finished up. Of course, we're starting 25, pay 26. We work in so many different years. I'm really not that vague about things, but we're actually doing 25, pay 26. And so the board's in session. We've got a new board member, Pat Bookwalter was just appointed. We're excited about Pat coming on. My president is sitting back there for something else that he does, but Jack Davis has been our president since I think 2007 or 8. Time flies when you're having fun. But I know you're going to have some questions. You're welcome always. We'd love for you to come down. Trent is now, along with Marty, my liaison, which is really fun. I think he's had a good time. We've actually drug him out in the field. Anyone else that wants to go out in the field, holler, you can go. We do that all the time too. So, any questions?
Any other questions for the assessor? What we think? Oh, Councilor Wills, I keep missing you. Go ahead.
Okay, no, last second. You said you were down to 2 people, so you have 2 vacancies currently in your office.
Why?
Well, I'm asking, I guess, what's happening to fix that?
Nothing. Not until I hear from WIS. Can't bring someone in at the salary they're being paid right now. That's why they went up there, 20,000 more to the auditor, without any training to go up there. I lost 2 really valuable people, and I bless their hearts. They can't afford to stay here. They're both single. Well, they're not both single. One's single and one isn't. But a $20,000 increase, if the auditor made $20,000 more than I would have ran against her. Probably not. I wouldn't want to be auditor. I'm just saying, when you have that, no one wants to be auditor.
Oh, man.
Hardest job we have. No, Bree is phenomenal, but I'm just saying, when you have that discrepancy between any office, I don't care if it's the assessor, auditor, anybody, you lose people. I have never lost people like this, ever. So we're really having a little issue. My people stay 20, 30 years. It's never been a problem until now, and we've got to do something about it, period. And I think some of you are.
And always keep working. Any other questions or comments?
I just would like to add that the assessor and her office staff has been waiting for 8 months for a response from WIS that is reasonable. And and I appreciate the fact that they've been trying to be patient. But we have to listen to our employees, and it is time we work through that. I understand that Kent Irwin now wants to talk to the other counties. What are they paying their assessors? How much longer is that going to take? I think 8 months for WIS to figure out what they're doing is enough time. So I'm hoping that this council will just move forward with proper decisions.
Seeing no other comments, I think we've got to move. Councilor Iverson, did you have something? Nope.
No, I don't think so.
We got good food for thought and action. So thank you very much. Good to see you as always.
Good seeing you guys.
All right. Got the jail commander, Commander Gibbons. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here. I'll be much shorter, I promise. We just want to give a very quick update as to what's going on at the facility. We are still at 100% staffing. We have 64 full-time employees, 6 part-time, which are fully trained. At this point, you have to have 80 hours prior to job assignment, and they all have that. So they're ready to step in if a vacancy opens up. Booking information for the facility. We have 189 total inmates. We have 158 in secure bed count. We have 162 males. We have 27 females. In the last 48 hours, we have 12 bookings, 36 releases. In the facility, we have 158 felonies, 25 misdemeanors, and 6 other holds, which are parole, out-of-county, DOC. Our recent bookings, I gave you guys 5. Possession of methamphetamine by 2, dealing and manufacturing methamphetamine, theft, forgery, and residential entry. That is my update. Do you have any questions for me?
Commander, questions from council? No, thank you very much. We always appreciate your work in updating us, and as well as with the Sheriff's Department as a whole. Thank you, sir. All right, I do have one announcement that came from Commissioner's Administrator Angie Purdy in conjunction with the airport. I'm going to read that here. I believe more information will be coming out from her on that, but here we go. Monroe County government employees, the Monroe County Airport is seeking your assistance on Monday, April 8, 2024, to be clear the eclipse day, which I think we all infamously are knowing. Going back to this is a holiday for Monroe County, so any employee who might be interested in earning compensatory time, no overtime payouts, the airport could use your help. In order to do this work, you would need to have written approval from your department head or elected official, as this is required as compensatory time. Can't say it very well today. Earned is applicable to the department you work for, not to the airport itself. Before you contact the airport to be considered for work, obtain your written approval and send it to contact information airport@co.monroe.in.us, and then someone at the airport will reach out to you. They will need assistance with wayfinding, helping a plane to find places it needs to be, shuttle drivers, and assisting in air traffic control. And I'll let others speak on that more. I just want to generally note a lot happening in the county on Eclipse Day, and I think you're seeing departments start to proactively react to that. We appreciate that. It'd be better to do that now than not. So thank you. There'll be more coming out on that in future hours. Okay? Any other department head updates? All right, I see none. Let's keep on moving. Council liaison updates, item 6. Any counselors wishing to make an update? Counselor Iverson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2. On Thursday, the Monroe County Blue Ribbon Commission on Climate Resiliency met. This was the first time the public saw a draft of the Monroe County Climate Resilience Implementation Matrix and its companion, the Monroe County Climate Resilience Plan. These large documents were reviewed ahead of time by the body, and massive thanks goes to Kelsey Thetonia, Tammy Bierman, and Victoria Seast for getting these unwieldy documents to a point where they are actually legible. It is also the first time that the body heard from our McKinney Climate Fellow, Victoria Ceased. And of course, none of this could happen without our partnership with the Environmental Resilience Institute. Our goal is to have those documents to this body before Earth Day, which is April 22nd. So that's the first update. The second update is that the Monroe County Substance Use Disorder Awareness Commission met on Friday, and I would ask that all of you get your calendars out and save the dates for Thursday, September 5th, 2024. That is when we are going to be hosting the 2024 Monroe County Recovery Summit, and we're dedicating this summit to the work of Greg May, who very tragically passed away. So we're looking forward to connecting and building with you.
Very much, Councilor.
Yep, and there are flyers to that effect of save the date on the back panel there.
Awesome. Thank you. I think I saw Councilor Munson with a liaison report.
Yes, I want to announce that on Thursday, the Food and Beverage Tax Advisory Commission will meet at 12 noon in the HR Council conference room. And we haven't had a reason to meet for a long time. And I'm glad to say that we do have a reason to meet. And I look forward to seeing the other people serving on this commission again. And we will have a request from the city of Bloomington to consider. Thank you.
Question? Do you have an agenda that you can share with us?
The agenda is going to be very simple. Call to order, roll call, update on the food and beverage tax advisory revenue that has accrued, and then we will hear the request from the city of Bloomington and take whatever action the commission wishes to take.
Can you tell me if you have a full house, full memberships, or do we? I thought we had a short one.
That matter is up in the air. We are going to find out at that meeting who will continue to serve on that commission. And we may well have a member short, and we already know that we have one member who cannot attend due to work commitments.
Councilor Munson, just a good public service announcement here. Any member of the public wishing to serve on any board and commission can certainly visit those at the county webpage and find lots of differences with those, but all are welcome. That's how we get a lot of things done. We rely on those boards and commissions.
Although you have to own or manage a restaurant.
This one's a little different. This one's a little different. But there's something there for everyone in some way. All right. Any other council liaison reports? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 7. And this is an agenda item from the legal department and one that we have been discussing a little bit related to consent agendas.
Council, I move to approve Resolution 2024-14, establishing procedures for county council consent agendas.
Second.
All right. And I understand Mr. Cockrell's pinch hitting for Molly Turner King today, but we'll invite you to make any comments as you understand them from her work.
Absolutely. Jeff Cockrell with the County Legal Department. I would just say that I believe most of the things in this have been discussed by the County Council, and this is just documenting those discussions. It includes what could be included in a consent agenda if that were to happen, and I believe it also has if any member of the council doesn't want any particular item to be part of that consent agenda, there's procedures for that as well.
Councilors, I'm going to open it up to discussion. I see Councilor McKim's hand.
Yeah, actually, I have a motion for amending. I'd like to, Council, I move we replace item number 3 in the resolution by the consent agenda will be presented to council at a public meeting as one action item. If any council member wishes to have an item contained within the consent agenda addressed independently, the council member need only request that it be removed from the consent agenda to be considered separately.
Got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And I can just explain that agenda, or the resolution rather, as written, requires a motion to remove an item from the consent agenda, which would then imply a second and a vote. And that's both contrary to Robert's Rules of Order and also just not typical for consent agendas. Normally, any council member for any reason can request that an item be removed and voted on or considered separately.
Councilor Munson.
So in that way, this particular part of the resolution is comparable to how we handle the question of separation of a motion.
Right.
Simply a request.
Right.
Councilor Hawk?
Now, right now, we're just speaking on the amendment.
On the amendment, yes. Okay.
Question.
Any other comments on the amendment? Can I do a voice vote on this? All right, since we're all here, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Ayes carried it. So back to the underlying consent agenda resolution. Councilor Hawk.
Just want to make sure that when we get to that part, that each item is read separately, put it into the record that's been read, and then we decide to go ahead with it. I believe that's how we discussed it at our meeting, that each one would be, it would all be read off publicly. Going to transfer from here to here, whatever. Each thing would be read off, and then we would move forward with the consent agenda. Is that right?
I'm going to ask for
I've not heard that.
I'm asking for clear. My understanding on this was the consent agenda is offered, and if a member wanted to remove something, they would, but I'm not sure about the reading each of those off.
But you'd have to read it off, or how are you going to say you want to move something out?
I think,
Like if you've,
yeah. Let me ask council that question. Do you have any thoughts on this or opinions?
I think you have to read it off.
I think typically when you do a consent agenda, you look at the agenda, and if there is an item you don't want approved, someone would make a statement that they didn't want to approve it, but otherwise the motion is I move approval of the consent agenda.
Yeah.
And I don't think you dictate exactly, now your agenda sheet that we post would have each item in it, and I think that's how I would read what is before you.
So you would say, for example, if we would approve this tonight, item 8 on our agenda is the consent agenda. And in that case, would Councilor Crossley, if she were offering the motion, list those items under your understanding?
I think all that would be required from my perspective would be a motion to approve the consent agenda. Right.
Probably doesn't get to hear what it is.
I know there are some boards that do actually just read each other.
Read the whole thing off, and then you boom.
And there would be nothing illegal with that either, right? So that is a question of what your preference is.
Transparency.
So my recommendation, if I may, councilors, because I'd like us to move to some items that are down the agenda, is for this evening that we move forward with the resolution, if that's the will of the council. We get a little clarification on what that might sound like in the next meeting. But for this evening's meeting, we could have a reading of that to satisfy that and revisit the question if we need to. Does that sound like a good compromise?
It does to me.
Councilor Wilt.
It definitely is a good compromise, and I'm cool with that. I'm going to vote no, and I was planning to vote no because of this exact issue. I don't feel comfortable having a consent agenda that isn't explicitly described verbally as well as in writing for the public. And it is a transparency issue, and this is why I've not been in favor of these to begin with. I do think the amendment that's been made is very helpful. I think that I understand that it'll speed up procedures. I just don't think it's worth it on the other end. So I'm explaining my no vote.
All right, thank you very much. Other councilors have comments? Councilor Munson.
So I too am concerned about the transparency issue, and a great deal of our fiscal work reflects the grant projects and other projects of our various departments, and the public won't have any idea what is going on in our departments if we do not have an abbreviated statement about the the request to the council
Sure.
included in the reading of in the motion for accepting the consent agenda. And I'm familiar with the abbreviated consent agenda motions because I serve on other boards. And they do not include any text description of the items in the agenda. And that is just a procedure that they're used to following. And so it's incumbent on the members to know exactly what's contained in that consent agenda.
Okay.
But I think we have a public face to our deliberations, and it behooves us to be more explicit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Other comments from council? Councilor McKim.
All right. Well, can we fix this? Can we just say, council, I move we add an item number 4 to the resolution that states each item on the consent agenda will be read at the time that the consent agenda is considered.
Yes, thank you.
Very good. I'll second that.
Second. We've got a motion and a second on the item. Any discussion on this new amendment to the underlying resolution? And this, my understanding is this would be us formalizing that we're going to read off each of these in the motion. Councilor Wiltz.
I have a question about that procedure. So I think this is the amendment. Will discussion be able to take place? So after you've read maybe all of them, if that's the procedure, if I had a question or a comment, could I then do that as part of the regular, like this item's discussion?
You would just pull that out. If you have a question or comment, you want to talk about an item, you just say, pull that out of the consent agenda.
And I can do that after you've read through it?
Yes.
Okay, is there no specific time when I have to have done it? Obviously.
Before
we
it's voted.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The one thing I'll offer just as a comment to council before we vote on this amendment, this is a formulated resolution based on councilors' response and a desire to move the meetings along a little quicker. So if we need to adjust more things, we can adjust more things. Okay. So on the amendment, I'll do a roll call vote on that. No, actually, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote on that.
I'm just trying to figure out, I've only got 2 places for an amendment, so it's like, so hold on. So
This is on the present amendment to have each item read into with the opening motion.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk. Yes. Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Yes.
Counselor Deck,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson. Yes. Motion passed unanimous
All right.
on
so
the amendment.
Thank you. We've got an amended resolution before us. Any further discussion on that? Yes, Counselor Wilt.
I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
If a department wanted to be extracted, so the submitter of the agenda request did not want to be included in the consent agenda for some reason, could that happen? And when and how could that happen?
I mean, given that any counselor can request something, I think out of 7 of us, one of us will support the department heads pulling out their.
I guess I'm trying to take it out of the meeting. I'm thinking when they submit, and they know they've got one of these, or they don't know that we've done this, can that be negotiated?
Well, they'll see the
prior
draft
to
agenda,
it?
right? They'll see the draft agenda, and then you negotiate, Kim, already with department heads that want to be in certain positions, right?
Yes, we do. We have some departments that request to be later in the meeting due to, prior obligations or other meetings, so they're always reaching out to the department or the office with regards to placement on the agenda. So, and we try to accommodate the best that we can.
I just want to make sure this wouldn't override their desire. If they wanted to come talk to us about something, I don't want to discourage that entirely. Again, I understand what we're trying to do, but.
Could we change the submission form to say, I do not want to be a consent agenda item?
I want to
Said
be
no
subject to the
department head
full
ever, but-
council
but
grilling.
maybe-
Another template. Yes.
Yeah. One thing I'll say is we're about 56 minutes in the meeting, and I don't think that departments feel like they cannot come in here and talk. But I think if we need to be clear on that, I would rather be clear than not, and that we change that form to say, I would never want that to be a consent agenda item if they truly want it.
Yeah, I can create a drop-down menu in our current
Okay.
form application.
That should take care of that. You're welcome. Thank you. Other comments on this resolution? All right. Well, on that, let's see if we've got any public comment on this. Public, you are welcome to come forward here in the Nat U Hill or raise your hand on Teams and offer your comments on this resolution regarding the consent agenda. Not seeing any. I'm going to hold it for just a second. I want to make sure. Okay. We will go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz? No. Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed, majority 6-1.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And we'll keep working if we need to on that to do whatever we need to do. That takes us to item number 8, the consent agenda itself.
Council, I hope I did this right. I'll just have to read. I move to approve the following consent agenda items for March 26, 2024. Council meeting minutes, prosecutor's new account line request, and health department's category transfer request as presented on the agenda.
Well, given what we just passed, it sounds like they need a little more detail.
Yeah, which I did not prepare it that way, so,
But you can read it off the
yeah, but you can read it off.
the agenda. Sorry.
Wait. So I'm literally reading. Okay. Well, y'all gonna have to bear with me. Okay. Council, I move to approve the following consent agenda items for March 26, 2024. Council meeting minutes. Do I need to read the meeting minutes?
Yeah, just do.
Okay, February 13th, 2024, and February 27th, 2024. Prosecutor's new account line request
And fund
4936-0000, training and travel. And health department's category transfer request of approval of category transfer and fund 8111-9623. Okay, and the amount of $34,868.17.
in the personnel, and then it's going to, the same amount is going to the supplies category.
Okay, oh, and supplies category, and fund 20011, and the same amount of $34,868.17.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Crossley. All right.
It'll take us a little time to settle on this, but it's okay.
That's one way to say it.
It's
We'll get it.
So we've got motion and a second on that. Any counselor needing anything pulled from that consent agenda? Seeing none, we will go to, can I voice vote this?
Yes.
Please tell me I can do
Yes.
that. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has carried. And that takes us, thank you. That takes us to item number 9. And that's a request from the Public Defender's Office.
Okay. Council, I move to approve the public defender's request for an additional appropriations and Fund 9160-0000 System Navigator Grant in the amount of $166,499 in the personnel category, $500 in the supplies category, and $9,001 in the services category for a total appropriation of $176,000.
Second.
All right. It's good to see Ms. Heather Stuffle here. What can you tell us?
Good to see you too. So I'm actually asking if we can amend the request. I'd like to amend it and include another $19,053.11 that was a cash balance from that fund, System Navigator 9160 from 2023. So the total would actually be $195,053.11.
Okay, council, I did, in front of you, there should be a breakdown of her request that she submitted to earlier.
Yeah.
Right. So I will amend that request. Do I need to read the full thing all over again? Or just the amount?
You just amend your category totals.
Okay. So council, I move to amend the category total amount for the total appropriation of $195,053.11.
Second.
We've got an amendment with a second. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. We have an amended request before us. Any comments or discussion on that?
And just for the record, so that we have it, we did advertise for the 195,000. So it was advertised correctly. It's just that the request that was submitted and amended didn't make it in time for the council agenda packet.
The auditor, I saw.
We're trying to figure out what category the 19,000.
Oh, it should be in the notes that I gave to everyone.
And it would, I'm not saying it's not in the notes, but it would really be great to have that as part of the minutes to the meeting, and so the auditor is understanding.
Okay. So I'll read it again. The personnel category is $182,542.53. The supplies category is $510.58. And the services category is $12,000. Again, for the total of $195,053.11.
All right. Other comments from council or questions for Ms. Stuffle? All right. Councilor Iverson.
So just so everyone knows, this is 2 positions that works with Chin's cases. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Chins and TPR cases.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Hawk.
The first year of funding, is that telling us that we're going to need a match for following years, or?
We believe in 2025, they're only going to fund 50% of this grant, which means that the county would have to come up with the other 50%. However, that 50% would be 40% reimbursable from the state.
50% is 40%. That's okay.
And as I recall, this is the huge grant we got a few years back where they essentially came to you and said, we'd like you all to pilot this, show the rest of the state how it's done. And that's worked out pretty well for us.
Absolutely.
Okay. I remember that. I was your liaison. Those were good days. I was happy to hear it. Any other questions or comments?
I just have a question to clarify that. So for our budgets this fall, then we'll need to be looking at 40% of the 50%. And so
Correct.
you'll bring that to us. Would you also have any, I know you have, but at some point between now and then provide some data as to kind of their performance and if you have outcome? I
Of course.
presume with the grant, they request that as well. If we could have that, that'd be really great.
Of course.
Thank you.
Any other
Work
comments?
with you on when to come back. Okay.
All right. Seeing no other comments or questions, we will go to public comment on this. If you have a comment, come up here to this table in the Now You Hill or raise your hand on Teams. Seeing none, we will go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Hawk? Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Munson? Yes. Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Have a good evening. This takes us to item number 10, emergency management.
Council, I move to approve the emergency management's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 8178-0000, National Priority Com, in the amount of $18,100 in the services category.
Second.
I see Justin Baker is joining us via Teams. Mr. Baker, thank you very much. What can you tell us?
Good evening. Yes, the department received the grant through the Indiana Department of Homeland Security, and it's called the State Homeland Security Program Grant. And this grant focuses on terrorism and getting communities prepared for terrorist attacks. So this grant will help fund an exercise next year. We're hoping beginning of spring or summer next year, 2025, to do a major tabletop exercise with many different departments and agencies within the county.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions
Thank
or
you.
comments from counselors? I do want to make one myself. I woke up this morning and just like every other person saw the incident in Maryland at that bridge, at the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and that is awful. And I feel for every person in Maryland. It occurred to me the minute I saw it that no public official, no emergency management member, or no first responder went about that night thinking that was going to happen in their community, and they had to respond immediately. Grants like this help us do things like that. Hopefully, knock on wood, easier. God forbid they ever happen. And I'm just grateful for that department going after it. I'm also grateful to any department going after grant dollars. Public defender just here a moment ago, they've done that. Others do that. And I think it's huge in those moments. So thank you. Yeah, Counselor Wells.
I tried to raise my hand before.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. One thing that sticks out to me in this, it looks like it's a grant for a training. And in that training material, it says something about civil unrest in addition to terrorist activity. And when I kind of scanned, it wasn't a searchable document, at least not with my software. So I'm just wondering, is there a definition of civil unrest that has been provided that you can provide for us?
So this civil unrest is any action that's going on in the community or any place, public display that turns out to be violent or anything like that. This exercise will focus on domestic terrorist civil unrest. So like domestic terrorists, organization coming to the county and try and cause issues. We're going to be training on that. situation.
And I'm not trying, I agree that the fact that you're going out, you're getting grants, you're training, and you're doing, emergency preparedness is incredibly important. So
Right.
please don't take my comments to mean otherwise. I just am a little concerned about that term, civil unrest, as something that is variously defined by different people, and was curious if there was a more specific set of conditions. I mean, it sounds like vaguely it's if there's an event and people become unruly. I would hope that the training doesn't point us in that direction so much as focuses on organized domestic terrorism and those types of emergencies. I don't have to say more about that.
I appreciate your comment. Yeah. Yeah, this will focus on any domestic terrorist organization that might come in and how we will try to resolve and respond to that incident.
Thank you.
So it can be civil unrest, it can be just domestic terrorism. It's kind of like getting all the picture, kind of, if that makes sense. It's because emergency management, we do all have emergencies. So we're looking at the big picture. We're not just looking at certain incidents. So if that makes sense, it's going to be like all hazard, civil unrest, and domestic terrorism. Or
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will go to the public on this. If you have any public comments, come forward to the Nat U Hill or raise your hand on Teams. Seeing none, we will go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. We'll go to item number 11, a request from the prosecutor's office. Beth?
Council, move to approve the prosecutor's request for the creation of a new account line 3565 IT hardware and fund 8186-9624 JAG high-tech crime unit, and simultaneously approve an additional appropriation of $24,395 in the services category.
Second.
Good evening. This is a request to appropriate newly received Justice Assistant Grant funding that we were awarded to the prosecutor's high-tech crime unit. The funding is in the amount of $24,935 and will be used to purchase additional hardware and software for the high-tech crime unit project. The additional hardware and software will allow the HTCU to employ an additional HTCU investigator, which will alleviate the backlog of investigative requests that are pending at the HTCU now. I don't know that it'll clean them all up, but it'll certainly move things along more quickly. There is no match required, as this is the first year of funding. I'm not sure that we'll apply for this going forward, but there's no match required for this.
Very much. Questions, comments from council? Jeff Cockrell.
I just want to note that the motion was for $24,395, and she indicated that they had $24,935. So I think one of them's a typo, and I
see it now.
I assume that the amount stated by Ms. Hamlin's correct. It's 24,935.
Yes.
Advertisement will satisfy either one, but I just kind of want to make sure you guys have the appropriate motion before you.
Mr. Cockrell is on it as usual.
We amend to appropriate $24,935.
Second.
All right. All those, any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose the same sign. Ayes carried. So we're back to fixed motion here. Any other
I'm
comments?
sorry, who seconded?
Councilor Crossley, I believe.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. No other discussion on this motion. Let's see if the public's got a comment. Come forward, then Nat U Hill, or raise your hand on Teams. I see no public comment, so let's go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk, Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you all so much.
A request from the Jail Correctional Center, and I saw the sheriff here, Sheriff Marte, Chief Deputy Parker, Commander Gibbons is still here, and Jordan Miller.
Council, I move to approve the jail's request to amend the 2024 salary ordinance and Fund 1233-0000 correctional lit and add the following 6 account lines: 10644, 10645, 10646, 10647, 10648, 10649, titled Correctional Officer at $41.25, at 41.25 hours per week at the jail classification level. CO classification.
Thank you very much. Sheriff and team, I'll pass it to you.
Good evening, council. This should be pretty straightforward, what we're going to discuss with you here. You've been brought up to speed already in the past. So I'm going to turn it forward to the chief here. He's going to talk to you about what we talked about the last time we were here for the transition team. That's the 6 individuals that we explained the reason why. And then I'm going to pass the floor on to Jordan to talk about the food service assistance, and he'll explain further on that one. Then we'll go right back to the chief. Now this one, the last one, C, to be in good faith is something that we want to do to be proactive. And the chief will get in more detail about that. But several months ago, I provided the 7-point plan to the council and commissioners. Part of that 7-point plan, 3 of them is that we could do right now and be proactive. And that's what we're going to discuss here for number C. That being said, chief.
Well, I know there's a whole lot to say here about the transition team, other than I hope that the 7 folks up there are as excited about this as we are. We've come to this place today, and just very quickly, we are already in the process of moving forward this based on your decision today. We've got applicants in the queue. We already have part-time officers that are trained up that can step in almost immediately, and then we'll just kind of recycle the part-time officers. So whenever we go for throttle up here, we'll move very, very quickly. I just talked to Corey about the office space. We should be up and running with that pretty soon, and then we'll start taking our direction from Corey and from Scott Carnegie from DLZ as to when we're bringing these people on. But again, just to reiterate, it will take us some time, even if we hired, in the next few weeks here, to bring them up to speed on the training. And so we anticipate that intersecting, that the time that they're really, really needed, where the design phase is already started and they're really needed, we'll have these new folks up to speed on their training, and we can start pulling people for that transition team. So I think we're in a pretty good place here.
All right. Go to questions, comments from council. Councilor McKim.
Yeah, just wanted to confirm the appropriation for this is advertised for the next meeting.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I think we mentioned the April 9th meeting. That's what we've been working off of.
Go ahead.
Councilor Iverson, and then I'll come back here.
2 quick things. This has been talked about a lot in the community. So glad we're finally getting this done. Just want to make sure that we're removing all the barriers so you guys can get the job that you need to be doing here. Second thing is the updates are fantastic. As Corey and DLZ start working on this transition team, I really look forward to hearing the progress you all are making.
We will commit to that. It is of great public interest, as it should be, and it's of interest to all of us as stakeholders in different areas of this. So we anticipate those updates being frequent and pretty precise.
I had a question about the correctional lit and its capacity to fund this as well as what we've already talked about it funding, which I believe were those other positions. And I maybe am behind on discussions because I know I missed a meeting. But this seems to be a pretty full amount of what we're anticipating getting annually with the current lit level. So I guess I don't want to necessarily jump over to item C, but they seem very related to me, unless I've missed something.
Councilor McKibbe, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I don't believe that the correction lit with the current rate would support everything we possibly would want in it. So, yeah, I think we're going to have to, not for positions, but when we're talking about the healthcare contract, we'll probably have to fit that in one of the existing jail budgets, either the PS lit or the general fund. That's my belief. I think that this is, yeah, I mean, unless it would just take them forever to hire these people, and it will. But we don't want it to take forever for them to hire. We want them to move. So that's my belief that we'll have to find somewhere else to, because we haven't put anything in this fund yet. We've just discussed it. So
right.
I mean, this is the numbers worked out that it seems like these expenditures fit well in that corrections lit. But at least that's my thought. I don't know if Councilor Hawk has an opinion, but I think we'll have to find somewhere else for the other.
I think what we decided at last meeting when we had this discussion, that in order to make sure that it would pass, it might take 2 readings of the salary ordinance, that we would, on the safe side, go ahead and read it this evening for the first reading. And if we don't all agree, then it would take a second reading to get it. So that's the reason why it's on here for tonight. Okay. Just to make, it was just put that safety net in there.
But I mean, do you agree we'll have to find a different location for the remainder of the health care contract?
Right. I think we're probably going to, we'll have to decide at that point whether we're going to take that out of the general fund or the public safety lit
That's
fund.
right, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I also thought that we were hoping that we might get some assistance from some of the dollars going into the health fund. Is that not?
The opioid.
Yeah, yes.
The opioid.
That's what.
That's certainly what I would like.
That we keep waiting and bated breath, hoping that would, well, even if it was for a while to save us some dollars, because it's contract, so we could do that.
Councilor Wiltz.
I agree.
I think that would be perfectly appropriate use of the opioid reimbursement opioid settlement funds. But everything I have heard from the commissioner's office about that pot of money has been other programming. And I don't know, you're on that work group. Can you speak to whether or not that's on the list?
I can speak briefly to this. The way that the body was created was to address some of the issues that were brought to our attention in the county from the community. Some of those have been funded, some of those we're considering, but there was a realization that there are other needs in the community that aren't being vocalized, and that might include item C on this agenda, that we are developing an application process so that those items can be going through that commission and be referred back to the council. Now, if either the commissioners or the council independently come up with, a location or a need for those funds, obviously, the council can discuss that, and that's something that's within the purview of council. But with the long-term nature of the opioid settlement funds, we're going to need something so that we can keep coming, organizations in the community or departments in the county have a method by which we can have them come to us, and also for us to be able to track the dollars with our different departments to make sure that, we know what's happening. Does that make sense? All right.
Councilor Munson.
So my question is, will the council not follow the usual procedure of making appropriations of those opioid funds, and that your commission would then make a recommendation to the council as to what you see as an appropriate level of funding? But it really would be the commission planning a long-range strategy for covering the major expenses.
And
Is that
receiving
right?
those applications. But you're absolutely correct. This body would be the final say in making the actual appropriation, accepting or amending the recommendation from this other body. You're absolutely correct.
Okay, so good. Thank you.
Other discussion or questions on this item, item A?
Just real briefly, if I may.
Please.
We had this very discussion before we came over here. We were reasonably assured of a couple things. One is when we talked about this, the other part of this, item C, would come into this discussion. So we were relatively sure that Councilor McKim would pick up his calculator and start doing some math. And in the last meeting, we kind of went through that, and you came up with a pretty close analysis of what you thought how this was going to impact that. So when we get to item C, I think I've got some probably better news than what you think that may lighten the discussion on this, because we've done a considerable amount of calculation in our office, and I would hope that we can kind of walk through that today and maybe firm that up a bit. So it may not be as large of an issue as we're thinking about right now.
That's the reason why you see me smiling, because we kind of jumped ahead. But give us some time, and we'll try to put some of those concerns to rest, if you will.
There are other comments or questions? All right, let's go to public comment on this item. If you have a public comment, come forward in the Nat U Hill or raise your hand on Teams. I'm not seeing any. We will go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk. Yes. Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, hold on one second here. We are at our 6:30 point, and we do need to take a break, as we've discussed here for council. So I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to make a point of order, but if you were already going to extend, then I won't.
I was just going to say I've tried to keep that because we've got members that need that, and I'm going to try to honor it until the council tells me otherwise. And so I was going to recommend we take a 10-minute recess so members can get a second to run the restroom, other things, and then we'll come back together at 6:40. Now, do you want to do a...
Well, I was just going to suggest, we started late. We've only worked, we've only worked about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. We've already got these folks in front of us. Why don't we finish the two additional items with the jail and then take the break? But
I agree.
Okay, then we will soldier on. Let's move to item B.
Council, I move to approve the jail's request to amend 2024 salary ordinance and Fund 1000-0380 General Fund Jail and amend account line 17305 Food Service Assistant part-time pay range from $14 to $15 hourly to $15 to $20 hourly.
Second.
There you go.
This is just kind of a housekeeping item. I believe in 2022, changes were requested for some staff members of the jail, and one of which was actually seemingly overlooked with the salary ordinance. The range has been at a max of 15, and this employee associated with this position is now has received an increase of $17.50 per hour. And so we just wanted to try to get the salary ordinance up to speed and reflective of the current pay rate of this employee.
Questions, comments from council? All right, seeing none, let's go to questions, comments from the public. Come forward to the Now You Hill or raise your hand on Teams. All right, seeing none, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard? Yes. Crossley? Yes. Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk? Yes. Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, takes us to item C.
Council, I move to open for discussion for the cost analysis of 3 advanced correctional health contract positions.
All right.
Okay.
Want to add some comments?
All right. This is the part that's a little more complicated, but I'll try to walk through this because it even gets confusing to me when I when I come back to it. So we are currently budgeted in our medical line for $1,576,000. So when we got the final numbers from ACH, and Jeff, I'll be getting you a copy of this contract tomorrow so that you can look this over, but I figured we needed to have this discussion before it even became a thing. So you'll be getting it tomorrow. Awesome. So we get the final analysis and numbers from ACH in the contract, and that will move us to $1,682,678.
Well, I'm sorry, could you read that number again?
So it's $1,682,678.
628.
678.
Yeah. So if Kyle used his abacus right, that is a difference of $106,678. So that's what I was trying to kind of walk through, that when we first started talking about this, it just keeps, that number keeps dwindling, fortunately for us, because I think out of this fund, we were talking about $400,000 that comes into that fund, and it comes in monthly installments. And I know that Councilor McKim had kind of done some rough math on what these 6 positions were going to cost. So I think what this does, and we did a rough calculation. I actually didn't write it down. I thought I did, but this is going to add about another roughly a little more like $8,300 a month, I think, to that. So whatever that 106, can you do that math for me real quick? That 106.78 divided by 12 will add to that, and it's very close to about 400,000 when you add in the 6 positions and this 106,000. Very close. Yep, $8,833 is what this will add to that. Now, before I go forward, I want to make sure, I covered this the last time. This contract amount only covers the in-house medical services, the rolling cap that is part of that contract, and the pool that is part of that contract. And to explain that very quickly, the rolling cap is a a credit given in that contract, if you will, of $10,450 a month. And that's for outside medical services, and that comes up to $125,400. So what happens is if we have outside medical services that are at or less than $125,000, it is included in this contract. Anything above that comes from an additional appropriation. And that's what happened to us last year. And it's really hard to predict. If we were one open heart surgery away from an additional appropriation or someone going on dialysis. You never know what's going to walk through the door. So it's hard to predict it. The pool is $40,500. And what the pool is, that's your pharmacy. So anything
Per
that we
month.
no, that's for a year.
Oh,
I'm
for a
sorry.
year,
Yeah.
sorry.
And that does not roll. And even going back to the rolling cap, it only rolls during that 1 year. When you come up to renewal, you start all over again. So that $40,500 again is for the renewal period, and if your prescriptions go over that, again, we'll be back in front of you. So I just want to make very clear that it's not uncommon at all for a sheriff's office to have to come back for an additional appropriation in medical. Matter of fact, I don't know if I've ever been in a place where we didn't have to. You get lucky some years, but most of the time, our jail population fluctuates greatly. And right now, we're sitting pretty nice, but even the jail population really doesn't dictate what your medical expenses are. It's who comes through your door and what they're bringing in that door with them. So that's my kind of presentation on how this thing laid out in the final analysis of it.
Counselor McKim.
So I'm sorry, what is the period of performance of this contract? What's the start date and end date?
The start date they have on here is 1/1 of 2024. Obviously, we're not gonna accept that as a start date. So it would start whenever. And that's why I want to get to Jeff. It would start, I believe, whenever we put these three positions in place, and not before. And then it would just melt in with the end date with our regular contract. Am I speaking out of line there, Jeff?
Well, my assumption would be that ultimately this would either be an amendment to the existing contract.
Yes.
In which case it would have the same term as the existing contract. We would just date this amendment probably either the day it gets approved by everyone, but more likely to the first of a month, the day after or the month after it gets approved, so they have time to hire some people and get them in place. But that would be kind of the theory.
Got it.
That email, but I'll be sending you this contract tomorrow. So.
Okay. Counselor Munson.
Yes, for Chief Deputy Parker, I want to clarify the rolling cap, just so I understand it. If you go over, then you come back here for an appropriation for both of those caps. And if you go under, it does not carry forward. It's just part of the contract payment.
Correct.
Is that right?
It runs out at the end of the renewal year from 1/1 to 12/31. It does not roll. It doesn't get refunded. It's just built into that contract.
So why do they call it a rolling cap when it's non-rolling?
It rolls from month to month. So you get $10,450 in January, and if you don't use that, what is left
Monthly
over
rolling,
rolls
but not
over.
annual rolling. Okay.
Yeah, correct. It only rolls with the renewal period.
Thanks.
Other comments or questions from council? So this is a discussion item. We're holding this till next meeting. Is that Councilor Wells?
Well, no, I'm good. I need to think on some numbers, and I really do think before we move forward at the next meeting, it's going to be important for us to think about our revenue on that lit and the exact expenses and some worst case scenarios. I mean, I don't want to go worst case scenarios, but like reasonable, risks. And what can we maybe allocate to the opioid fund without overdoing it, because the opioid fund has a lot of customers. I get that. Or maybe it's general fund, maybe it's PS Lit, but I happen to remember our budgeting, and we budgeted all of those things pretty solidly. We don't have extra. So no question, sorry, just my brain pouring out of my mouth. Pardon me.
No apology needed. These are the three things that we felt that would be very proactive, and we were listening to the council and the commission very carefully. And to be actually fair and appropriate as far as finances, I get it. I fully understand it. But when I hear feedback and I'm told, okay, try to be proactive, we don't want people coming back into the system. We have people that have substance abuse, we have people that have mental illness, and we have people coming back. Well, those are the three main things that I'm bringing forward. And we also went back and tried to work with the provider service. Say, hey, you got to help us here, and they have. So more than that for us, we don't know what else to do. So it's up to you. You decide, and we'll move forward. I just want to make sure that we're progressing in the right direction for us, which is forward thinking, because this problem is not going to go away.
That's right.
It is not. So I just want to make sure we understood that we're in the same shit of music, because what we did here was basically what we heard you say to us. So I want to make sure that's clear.
Councilor Iverson.
And I just want to clarify for those who might have missed a meeting, the three positions are a qualified mental health professional. That's not, no. I'm for members of the public, maybe. A discharge planner and a substance use counselor.
The main three things.
And that all comes from what we heard when we listened to the public during JFAC.
To be fair, exactly correct.
Yep.
And if I could for a second, just keep us moving. Could we game out with some numbers, some worst case, middle to worst case scenarios, just so that we have that maybe on paper? And then maybe Councilor Iverson, if you could look into the opioid dollar option and other gamed out scenarios that we might have. What else are we missing here so that we're coming back in 2 weeks better informed? Councilor McKim.
Wait, so just so I understand, when we're talking about worst case scenarios, I assume that if we appropriate the money for a contract, we're appropriating the money for a contract, that the additional money would come later in the year if you've got somebody who's got needs open heart surgery and that sort. So we won't know. I mean, we wouldn't necessarily have to pay for it from the same source that we pay for the contract. We could appropriate it from. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood
We might
what
have to go to rainy day, and we might have to go wherever we have money, because they don't know what's going to happen and who's going to walk in the door with a major.
I just want to make
problem.
sure I understood what worst case.
You
scenario
can't
was
really
referring to, that's
budget
all.
for that.
And I guess, again, this happens when stream of consciousness, and I apologize for that part of my approach. Worst case is not what I'm interested in, really. What I'm interested in is the trend over the past however many years, perhaps, that could give us an indication of what to expect in excess of the contract.
Now that we should have.
Each year, we only budget for the contract. But what we can do, and I think this goes to your point, Councilor Wiltz, that what we can do is go back in history, and we can kind of track what additional appropriations we have had to come forward with to say, here's what's happened in our facility. I know last year that was $400,000. The year before, I don't know. So maybe if we got like a 5-year tracking for you, just to kind of give you an idea of how this all truly works out. Because when you say healthcare contract, if you're not careful, your mind lets you think, okay, that's what we're going to pay for healthcare. It's not.
Right.
It's what you're paying for in-house healthcare services, mental health services, the equipment, the routine equipment that they use, gauze, syringes, you know, a laundry list, that's included in the contract, but it is not for medical services that cannot be dealt with inside the facility. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I would appreciate that, if you could work with
Yep,
them on
yep.
that, that'd be great. Thank
Jordan,
you.
Jordan can, and Kim
Thank you.
can work.
I think 5 would be a good start, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's easily done through Lao. I mean, we can pull that.
Well, that easy, could I have 10?
Yeah. I will print it off for you 10 times.
So,
There you go.
to be clear for me, so April the 9th,
Mm-hmm.
what's taking place that day?
Show up and find out.
I was gonna say,
Wow.
there is,
That was kinda-
there's, the request for the additional appropriations, which is for the 6 positions. And then it sounds like there might be a contract extension with regards to this ACH. So.
We'd have to advertise that appropriation separately and later.
Yes.
Okay.
Because at this point,
Late
unless
to-
we've got it, because we've already missed the April
Yeah.
9th deadline,
Yeah.
it would have to come at a different time.
Councilor Iverson, did you?
I just want to make sure, Sheriff Marte, that sounds good to you?
Well, it sounds like no choice. I wanted to make sure that everyone understood that when we came forward with this idea, it was not something that we thought of, but we knew that it was going to be a vicious cycle. And I listened carefully, and we complied. The rest is up to you.
I hear.
Because right now, if we do not move forward, the same thing's going to keep happening. We're going to see the same people here. And when I hear people telling me, well, what are you doing? I could say I came forward and I provided what needed to be provided because I was asked to. And I did. So,
All right. Thank you, Sheriff. And thank you very
Thank you.
much. Awesome. All right. Counselors, shall break? No break? Any thoughts?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? All right, let's take a 5-minute break. We will come back together, and I'm sorry, my computer's died on me. It is we'll do 6:53.
After you come back home.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Do
We
it.
can continue.
I'm going to call this meeting back to order, the Monroe County Council. We're on item 13. Thanks for patience during our break. This is a request from the Health Department.
Council, I move to approve the Health Department's request for the creation of a new account line 38110, Services and Charges, and Fund 8153-0000, Harm Reduction, and to simultaneously approve an additional appropriation in the amount of $800 in the services category.
Need a second. Thank you. Ms. Kelly.
Hi, good evening. So this is just a request. We are still going through and reconciling our funds, and we discovered an extra $800 just due to an invoicing error. And we would like to be able to create an account line and use these funds as the grant has been closed out and we cannot return them.
Any questions, comments from council? All right. Seeing none, we'll go to public comment. If you haven't come forward the Nat U Hill or raise your hand on Teams. I'm seeing none. We will go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk is not present. Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous 6-0.
Okay. That takes us to item B.
Council, I move to approve the Health Department's request to amend the 2024 salary ordinance and Fund 1159-0000 Health Fund and add a new account line 10121 Harm Reduction Specialist, 35 hours, Pat A, non-exempt.
Second.
Okay. Let's go.
Yes. So I am anticipating a gap in our grant funding that currently supports this position. The state is changing some of their grant cycles, some of the way that they funnel through some of these funds to us. Currently, it's estimated that we will be able to finish out the grant funds that we have until June. The next grant award is not anticipated until August. So this is just in preparation to be able to move this position into another fund to continue services.
Any questions, comments from this council? Seeing none, we'll see if the public has comments. Come forward to the Nat U Hill or raise your hand on Teams and we'll get you recognized. Seeing none, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley? Yes. Counselor Hawk is not present. Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Okay, we're at item C.
Council, I move to approve the Health Department's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 9130-9624 Syringe Services Program in the amount of $25,000 in the supplies category.
Second.
And this is just our standard grant dollars that support the purchase of syringes for the syringe service program. This is restricted funding, so it can only be used for support of those services.
Questions, comments from this council? Okay. Seeing none, I'll go to public comments. Public, if you have a comment, raise your hand on Teams or come forward in the Nat U Hill room.
13C.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk? Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kelly. Have a nice evening. All right, we're at item number 15, a request from the clerk's office. And I think our chief deputy clerk is here, Laura Wirt, as well as our clerk I see, and our election director.
Council, I move to open for discussion and possible approval the retroactive pay for election supervisor for the period of January 11th through February 11th, 2024.
Second.
Welcome, Ms. Wirt. This is your first appearance with us, right?
It is.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Hello. My name is Laura Wirt. I'm the Chief Deputy Clerk of Monroe County. I would like to thank you all for taking the time to listen to what I have to present. I would like to request that the retro pay be given to our election supervisor, Kylie Moreland. In the immortal words of Kurt Vonnegut from his written work, Cat's Cradle, in this world, you get what you pay for. And Genichi Taguchi, cost is more important than quality, but quality is the best way to reduce costs. For January 11th, 2024 through February 11th, 2024, Kylie stepped in as an interim election supervisor and completed the following election supervisor level tasks. Presented the convention center's contract before the commissioners and secured approval. Planned and coordinated reserve dates with the convention center staff for election workers training. Worked on ballot creation, attended election board meetings and answered all questions directed at her. Handled emails and phone calls directed to the previous election supervisor in addition to her own communications. Handled candidates with election form questions. Worked with the GIS team on the creation of the precinct mapping on Monroe County's website. Secured polling locations, that's akin to herding cats if you have never done it. Visited polling locations to ensure a good fit for Monroe County's primary and general election needs. Met with early voting and back office election board leads for staffing questions, organization, and to ensure a smooth election process. Secured parking for the Napa early election building. Worked directly with the clerk to keep the election planning and organizing on track. That's only to name a few things that she did behind the scenes during that 22 days. 21 days. This request does not ask for additional funds, since the requested funds would be drawn from the already budgeted line item reserved for the election supervisor. So the official request is for Kylie Moreland, election supervisor, to receive retro pay covering 21 days that she stepped in with dignity, confidence, patience, gusto, and kindness as interim election supervisor. Again, thank you for listening to our request, and I welcome and invite all questions from the council.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wirt. All right, we will go to comments or questions from the council. Councilor Hawk.
Yes, I certainly would support making sure it went back to her actual start date if any adjustments need to be made. But there's many different offices where someone steps in until the person is appointed to be the department head or to be whatever the position is. And that happens all the time in county government. And if you're only working in just one department, you don't see it happening everywhere, but it does. And so we could not possibly do for one department. We weren't prepared to do that for every department. For instance, we have an auditor sitting there now that was doing the very hard work of being the auditor before she was the official auditor, and she did not get paid to be the auditor. She got her regular salary. You see, that's how it works. So in order to be fair to everyone, I think that we should take it back to whatever her start date was that she was made to be the election supervisor. And that's my opinion.
Okay. Councilor Wiltz, I hear.
So to be clear, this request is not about that, taking it back to the date of start. She's been paid from the start date forward. It's looking at the situation that you described, Councilor Hawk, with stepping into fill shoes in an absence of the election supervisor. My question is, though, in the office, with respect to hiring the next election supervisor, what was going on at that time? Were
Interviews.
They
were interviewing other candidates, yes.
Including presumably this person.
Absolutely.
As well.
Absolutely. In order to give a fair shot at other applicants, you have to take time.
And the start date was February 12th, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Councilor McKim.
So I guess it's interesting. I never realized that people serving in a role in an interim capacity weren't actually paid for that role. So this is actually news to me that that's not the way we ever do it. So is it true that, I mean, to me, it makes sense that obviously you only have one person paid at a time for a particular job. You don't ever have two, I mean, unless we've explicitly authorized a training period, you only have one person. So in this case, they have one person who's doing the job, they have a salary ordinance law, and they have a budget line with an appropriation in it. I guess I don't see why she wasn't paid from that line from the beginning when she started actually doing the job.
I agree with you, and the poor auditor should do the same. I mean, all the people, but that's just
I mean,
my
you can't
2
serve
cents.
as an, I mean, it may be different with an elected official, but I guess, so we never pay anybody, no person who's ever had an interim role actually gets paid for the increased work they've done.
No, generally, so what happens is a department head or an elected official will complete paperwork, which is called a payroll change form. And on that, they put what fund they are going to or account line and the effective date. And so depending on when that is submitted and the effective date, that's when they officially become part of that. In the meantime, most departments have others cover the duties as needed because it's within their job description that says other duties, performed as needed.
This just seems to go a little beyond the other duties as needed,
But we've never had interim positions. No one's ever come back to, ask for retro pay other than, they were moved into that position with regards to maybe it was a delay of a KSA or something like that.
Mhm.
And that's the only
Other comments or questions?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're talking about 3 weeks, 21 days. So 4 weeks. You're 4 weeks of period of time where the clerk presumably asked that this employee help by doing other duties as assigned. And then it's now been another 6 weeks, it's been longer than that now for you to come and ask about it. What's happened in the meantime, I guess, is my question. Why wasn't this like, February 13th asking us, hey?
When you have two new people coming in at the same time, trying to run through different options. I also was hired on February
Right.
as well.
Mhm.
So when you're focused on trying to get people up to, I want to say up to par, because that's not necessarily the correct term, but understanding how the processes work in your office, that's what you focus on. You're hitting the ground running. You're trying to run through, okay, these are the process, these are the procedures, this is how you do it, these are who the people you need to talk to, these are, and then I started thinking, this wonderful woman, Kylie, she stepped in and she stepped up, and I was impressed with her from day one. And I'm going, hey, why hasn't? And she's like, well, why don't you go ask? So here I am. So just because it hasn't done doesn't necessarily mean it can't be done. So
the one thing I kind of go back to is I remember this period of time, and there was questions about who will be in this role, who will do this position, and that was later answered. I think I can't remember when. I don't have that sequence of events, but during this period, that was not answered. I tend to wish that us accounting for that, allowing for that, would have been during that period of time, so that we could have managed that in that process, versus kind of I believe this request came in at March 19th. So we could have proactively on the front end said, we're putting this person in this role, would have answered the public question on that as well. And I think that was a discussion at that time, just to be candid. And then we could have managed that on the front end, because it does get difficult if we're not managing and knowing who's doing what, when, and how. Not to diminish any of that work, but not to have that. Okay. Other council comments? Seeing none, we'll go to. Do you have something?
I would move we deny this request and just start the pay for being the election supervisor of the date that she was actually moved to the election supervisor, just like we would do for any other office.
All right, since we don't usually make motions to deny requests, let's phrase it in a motion to approve, and you can vote.
I can make a motion to approve or deny, and I made a motion to deny.
There's already a motion on the floor.
We got to, let's hold on a second. We've got a motion that's on the floor. We could amend that motion if someone wished to.
It's just a discussion motion though, right?
Yeah.
Discussion and approval.
Oh, was it approval?
Possible approval.
Possible.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so if someone wants to amend that or withdraw that, or what would be the
Isn't that the only motion on the floor? That the other one was just a discussion, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So
So
I'm just asking for fairness.
Okay, so I need to know what I need to know what the motion is.
Councilor Hawk gets a motion to deny the request. Is that?
To do back pay before she was appointed the election supervisor.
We could say it's a motion to reaffirm that the pay for that position begins on the hire date. If we want it to be positive. I was
Right.
trying to put a positive spin
Right.
on it.
That's-
Which was February 12th. Okay, so I heard that from Counselor Wiltz. Is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Munson has seconded that. Okay, any discussion on that motion? All right, we will go to public comment on that motion to reaffirm the hire date at February 12th. Any members of the public, you can come forward and now you hill or raise your hand on Teams. Okay, we will go to a roll call vote. And just to restate, I want to make sure this is clear for us and the public. This is a motion to reaffirm the hire date of February 12th. Okay?
Okay. Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim, Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Time.
Thank you very much. All right, this takes us now to item 16, which is a request for approval of resolution 2024-12, amending the established pay rates for absentee board members.
Council, I move to approve resolution 24-12, amending the established pay rates for absentee board members.
As we open this, welcome, Ms. Moreland. We need a second.
Second, but wait, does that not actually include the changes? I'm a little bit confused about the structure of the agenda here.
The resolution has the changes in it, so I'll pull that up, so.
Let's take a look at that.
Okay, I think we need to be really clear
Yeah.
about what
Yeah.
we're voting on here.
So this is gonna be pulled up here.
We also have item B and C, and those are unnecessary then if we approve A?
No, because I've already amended the salary ordinance per the last time this was done. So then this is changes to, so it'll have to be, the salary ordinance needs to be amended to change from what was originally approved. So.
I'm still confused, but maybe it'll be all clear when you show it.
Let's take a
on the
look at the
screen.
resolution.
Okay, one moment.
So are we in the process of discussion or waiting? on
We're
something?
waiting for the resolution. Let's take a look at that so that we're abundantly clear on what we're considering.
Usually we just amend salary ordinances. We don't do a resolution and then amend
Yeah.
a salary ordinance. That's,
So I don't know, maybe Jeff might have an idea, but this is what Molly submitted for changes, or Molly Turner King.
Okay.
So on the last resolution that was passed, worker A was approved at $17 an hour, worker B was $17.50, and worker C was $18. And the resolution now shows that A will be $20 an hour, B will be $25 an hour, and worker C will be $33 an hour.
and does this resolution also include the change to the recruiters, making them per diem?
That's the next one.
That is,
That's all I see.
that is only in the, that will be the salary ordinance, because the recruiters are not part of the absentee workers. Here is the other section that was added as well.
And let me, before we get further into this discussion, I just want to make just an opening comment here, because this is literally the council doing its work, trying to do its work in that process. In our last meeting, we targeted an effort that we believed was an effort to help record what folks that were absentee workers who are valued and cherished in our democracy of this community. What we thought was something that would be helpful in keeping employee services in the business of being able to pay people per an hourly rate and a rate that was necessary, and also reflecting what the clerk and the election board needed on that work. What you see before you are changes to that, attempting to reflect some of the feedback and sentiment that we have heard when our efforts were not hitting the mark right. So I want to open that. We're still working here on this. Okay, Councilor Hawk.
Okay, when reviewing some of the information for this meeting, I was looking at it and it was saying that it's up to the commissioners. It was a legal document that we were looking at? It was the commissioner's decision?
Election day workers, election day, not absentee.
Not this. This is something else?
Absentee, we set, commissioners set election day.
Just the election day.
Election day.
Okay, all right. The other thing is, when we moved the dollar amount, what ended up happening, some folks had been hired on at a certain dollar amount per day, and they worked however many weeks, thinking that's what they were hired in at. They get their paycheck, and it's like $100 short because they didn't know that we'd changed the hourly, and they were $100 short. Now, there are some people that if you were $100 short in I think it was only for 1 week pay period, that might leave you a bit short for what you'd planned to do. And I think we have, whatever we decide to do here, we have to go back and make sure those folks are made whole. Because you can't reduce somebody's salary once you've hired them and say, we're going to pay you X a day, and they work that, then you have to pay that, whatever your agreement was. You can't go in later and say, no, we're going to pay you less. You're not allowed to do that.
And I believe that the salary ordinance amendment that will be read as part of B and C will be backdated to April 12th, which is when we made the last change.
Was that the first
That's
day
when we
that
made the first.
any of them worked?
That's when we made the change.
But they haven't started working yet, have they?
Some have.
Some have.
So the people who have started working have ended up short a big part of their pay,
Yes.
and we have to fix it.
My understanding, and this is speaking with E. Sensenstein, is that because there was this controversy with regards to, per diem versus the hourly rate. And so in the salary ordinance, it stated hourly rate. So those people were paid the hourly rate, knowing that once the resolution was passed and you guys agreed on something, that they would have to go back and make up that difference. So they know that it's coming. It's just that.
In fact, they were put into the lowest category. They were put into the $17 rate rather than they could have been put into the $20.
They were put into the $17 rate before this even came up, because that was where the rub was at. Because in the salary ordinance it said $140 a day, but timesheets were turned in with $17 an hour. So they paid the $17 an hour because that's what was on the timesheets and the claims that was submitted. So, and then they're supposed to, meaning employee services, payroll will go and then make up the difference depending on what council decides. That's my understanding. I don't have,
So we could even have to backdate it before March 12th then.
Correct. Because I have no idea when that information was actually turned in. I just know that there was that issue, and then Employee Services asked for you guys to look into this. So that's where that all started, was during that period of time.
And I'm looking at some information from Molly Turner King, and she said, and I think it may go back to March 7th, because I think that's the first day that they could be appointed pursuant to state code. So that it could go back as far as March 7th, but clearly they couldn't be paid until they were appointed.
All right. Councilor McKim, and I do want to note that some of the work that you're seeing is a result of Councilor McKim's hard efforts in this to make sure we're getting it
yours
right.
too.
Well, I sat there and kind of tried to help, but what you add some comments here.
Yeah, first of all, I just really want to thank the clerk and our chief deputy and our new election supervisor for working hard to help us understand the issues associated with recruiting and managing these absentee workers. You know, we've learned that there is a ton of complexity in the absentee working structure and scheduling, and I think there's still more work on our part to be done to tweak the salary structure, but 2 weeks before early voting starts isn't the right time to do that. So I think what we're proposing here is a compensation structure for absentee workers that makes sure that no one is losing money, and in fact are achieving many of the goals of the clerk for increasing compensation for absentee workers, which I know that has been talked about for a long time. I do think we should sit down with the election board at some point and have a more detailed conversation about compensation to make sure we're getting it right. I've heard that there's a new statute that will be effective July 1st that will make election workers independent contractors. I don't know how that will affect anything, but again, the time to be dealing with this is not right now. I think the numbers that we've proposed here, which are $20 for category A, $25 for category B, and $33 for category C. I think they provide fair wages for the absentee workers and also help achieve some of those goals for increasing their pay. I hope you all support these increased hourly rates, as well as later the move of the recruiter position back to a per diem, since that position just doesn't lend itself to an hourly wage. We want to have, you know, like we've heard before, you get what you pay for, and I think we want and we anticipate a smooth election.
Ms. Moreland, we've not heard from you, and I apologize for that. You
It
wanna
is
talk?
fine. So I am Kylie Moreland, the new election supervisor, and first and foremost, for the benefit of the public, but also our election workers specifically, the clerk would like to make it clear that neither her nor any of her staff in a party had any effort in reducing election workers' pay. She would like to disassociate herself from the party from whom this was even a consideration. While she feels that this was a solution in search of a problem, she does not believe the county council was responsible for this situation. The efforts as we work on getting the pay situated for our workers is very, very important to us because it needs to be done as quickly as possible with early voting starting in 2 weeks. Though Indiana Code 311-1038 calls for absentee voter board to be compensated via per diem rates, the clerk will respect the wishes of the council to transition into an hour rate as long as it is to benefit our election workers. She is in absolute agreement with you on the per diem for recruiters. While happy to address any questions or concerns the council may have, the council may instead prefer to hear directly from election poll workers that are here today. And then we just want to make sure that this is resolved as quickly as possible. I do know that the new statutes that was stated from state is, I have been informed that it's not to do with election workers. So we just want to try to situate this as apart from that.
Let's go to questions from council for Ms. Moreland. And I had one, if I could just jump in. This, as you see this here, and as we talked about in your office last Friday, do you believe this would address the issues that we have where folks, the checks were going down, folks lost, pardon me, I'm at a loss for words right now. we were at a risk of losing folks. Do you think this will address that?
I think it will reduce the fact that we will lose employees and election workers in general. But moving forward, we do believe it's going to need to move in pay rate to keep them. And then also, we've already started getting callbacks from election day workers. So now this is going to bring into another set of issues with election workers in general.
And that is the commissioner's question, but
Correct.
we will defer to them on that. Okay. Sorry to jump in there. I just wanted to make sure on that. Other questions, comments from council at this point? Yes, Councilor Hawkins.
So is this then going to go back to where they've already started working and adjust that pay so that they're not left short? You're going to take this salary and take it back to the date it was.
I'll look to this table over here. Do you believe this does it, or does this need something else?
Need to give me an effective date, which
Okay.
I believe Molly Turner King texted and said it was March 7th.
Does that sound right to you, Ms. Moreland?
On the what?
That's
right.
Resolution
That's
kind of
yours.
sets up the stage, and
Right.
that salary
you could
ordinance change
text my
really where you need to make sure that's.
Yes.
I do have.
Please.
I just want to reiterate, is March 7th, that works with what you're thinking as well in terms of when folks started?
For March 7th, it'll work for most of our coming up absentee workers, but we have leads that start working back in January. They're working as soon as the election ends, getting poll workers to come in and work for absentee for early voting. They have to create that schedule. They have to recruit. They have to do all of the background work, and they work. I mean, they're here. They can tell you how much they're working.
And they've been paid though they weren't affected by the change we made. Is that correct?
They were paid $17 an hour from the get-go.
but not from January 1st.
Yes.
I don't know about that.
Yep. Their pay stubs, when they received them, said $17 an hour.
And this was different than what they were expecting?
Yes. They were expecting the $140 per day, but then they were only sitting an hour, so they were expecting their hourly rate, but was not receiving the hourly rate that they should have been receiving, which me and Jeff had discussed this, and it should have been the $25.
And this comes from, I'm sorry.
Wait, no, go for it.
Taking
You're doing it.
I think the misunderstanding with the 17 and that kind of thing is that when it said per diem, there was an assumption made that it was an 8-hour day. And in reality, you've got actual 12-hour days that then you divide in half. So you've got a per diem for a 6-hour shift. Is that correct? And that's the difference between these numbers that we're looking at
Right.
here. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood that.
I'm sorry. I just got to say here, we are trying to fix something that we got wrong 2 weeks ago. We're not fixing something that started January 1st. We're dealing with, we're trying to undo and unwind a problem that I think that we created. Is there a different problem that we need to solve, or that the council needs to solve for related to something else that started January 1st? Because we didn't even discuss this until March 12th.
Right. Yeah.
The only thing I can suggest is that I can have employee services pull all of the time records with regard from January 1, and we can have them submit it, and we can just go from there.
I mean, I suggest that we backdate our changes here to March 7th to essentially undo the problems we created when we set the salaries too low.
Council agrees on that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Do we need that in this resolution, or will that be more appropriate for item B?
I think you need that when you're talking about the salary ordinance.
Okay. So for the present resolution, we're okay on that. Okay. Any other comments from council on this?
I'm satisfied. We've heard from staff. We've heard from, over here. I'm satisfied.
Okay. We will, on the resolution. Yes, Councilor Hahn.
Are we sure of that March 7th date? Because March 4th is the Monday. So did any of these folks start on March 4th, the Monday?
aren't appointed.
My
When they start
understanding
on
is
Thursday.
my understanding is that the March 7th date reflects the election board date or when they were appointed by the election board. Is that correct?
Counselor Munson.
But could they have been appointed on that date and actually worked several days earlier? Started work several days earlier?
I guess I don't know practically what happened. I do know that they're not appointed until the election board appoints them, so I can't answer that question.
We need to look at what Human Resources has, payroll has.
Yes, I just want to make sure no one's short.
Can we offer a motion that accommodates the date when they begin work?
Well, I would hesitate to that because she just stated that you've got people that started work back in January. So, I mean, I don't know what to do without pulling payroll reports.
For the present question, I think things can always be looked at and examined. For the present question, under this resolution, fixing an immediate problem 2 weeks from early voting, March 7th seems to be an agreed upon date. Now, I think we kind of hold on that and see what we've got, okay?
Yes.
Any other comments from council? Because what I'm going to do next is go to the public comments on this, okay? All right, we will invite members of the public who are very welcome to come to this table in the Nat U Hill and talk to us, or I'm gesturing again. On Teams, my screen is where Teams is, and we will hear from you at this point. Well, welcome all comments. Very welcome in this room always.
Come talk to
Yeah.
us.
It's all someone else's fault. Come on forward. Welcome to the Nat U Hill, and thank you for your service to the county.
I'm Peg Roberts, and I'm one of the Republican leads. I don't think the council or even the election board actually realizes how much work the leads do that do early election, also the leads that work in the back room with the mail-in ballots. We actually have to start in January because it takes us forever to get our schedules made. I don't know about Kathy, but I know I have changed my schedule probably 5 times since January. And we donate a lot of our time. I mean, we're on the phone or we're on our emails every day. And that's part of our job. And we don't put down that time on the timesheet at all. If we work 2 hours a day, of course we're gonna do it. My husband says that I use a lot of ink and paper during these few months, and it's all donated. And it's the same with Kathy and John. Don and I, Don Creek is my counterpart. We meet, I think we've had probably, all of us together, probably 4 or 5 meetings since January to get this all set up. If there's a problem during election, the leads are the first ones to get reprimanded for it. Then it goes up to Kylie and then finally up to Nicole. My sons and my husband are in the military, and it's called leads. I can't remember what the word is. If anybody's been in the military, you know, command. And I would classify us as sergeants. I would classify Kylie as a lieutenant. And Laura and Nicole are probably majors and colonels. But this is how it goes. And I think you really need to sit down maybe one of these days and just have a one-to-one talk with us so you know exactly what we do. Because I don't think they realize what goes on behind the scenes. But once election starts, we have to deal with the public. And as you know, the public is not easy, especially during election time. And especially, and this year, it's going to be very interesting. Does anybody have any questions? Jeff? See your brain working there. Do you have questions?
Well, I mean, do you think that, so this resolution proposes $33 an hour. I mean, do you think that that's a reasonable wage?
Oh, heavens, yes. Our biggest complaint was you were taking us from 140 a day and dropping us down to 120. I mean, if you were working, Jeff, I know you wouldn't be happy about it. Neither would Trent. Marty wouldn't either. I mean, you know, that's really a big loss. And when I first started as a poll worker, I thought it was time donated, which, and I thought it was really nice that we were being paid. But the leads really have a lot of responsibility.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it very much.
So a comment that I wanted to refer before I had said anything. Our paperwork for the leads that started on March 5th was denied from HR and payroll. We could not turn it in. They said that they did not want to receive the payroll, the new hire paperwork. So they are still sitting in the office, in the clerk's office, but yet they received paychecks on March 22nd at $17 an hour. So if their new hire paperwork wasn't ever submitted, we're questioning how the rate for them was chosen.
Yeah.
Don't have a
We
clue.
can't answer that. We can only.
Well, we want to make sure that you guys are aware of that because they started on March 5th. We're now saying that March 7th is going to be when they would date back to. But here's the thing, they want to accept their new hire paperwork in order for us to get them put into the system to be paid.
Counselor Wiltz.
Is March 5th the beginning of a pay period? Why don't we just make it the beginning of that pay period so that you all can work it out?
When you attempted to submit the.
Yeah. Let's, if we can, but we'll do that, like you said, that's in the next one.
Okay. Thank you for working through this with us. All right. Any other public comments on Teams or in the Nat U Hill room? Okay. Let's go to roll call vote on the resolution.
So this is fixes it.
I believe it does.
We'll have to do it again in the next item B. But.
Yeah. Keep fixing it.
Doing the resolution. We just need to do that.
Okay, and this is for resolution 2024-12. Council Iverson,
Yes.
Councilor Deckard,
Yes.
Councilor Hawk, Councilor Crossley,
Yes.
Councilor Munson,
Yes.
Councilor McKim,
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz. Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you very much. Let's go to item B.
Council, I move to approve the request to amend the 2024 salary ordinance and Fund 1215-0062, Election Fund, Election Board, amending the following account line rates. 17,506 absentee workers, A, from $17 hourly to $20 hourly, 17,509 absentee workers, B, from $18.50 hourly to $25 hourly, and 17,510 absentee workers, C, from $20 hourly to $33 hourly.
Second. Oh, do you want to add the effective date?
Retroactive to March 12th. Sorry. Okay, don't jump down my throat. Retroactive to March 5th.
All right. We've got a motion and a second. Thank you, Councilor Crossley. Don't quit on me. Other comments from council?
Thank you. Appreciate it. We don't want the phones ringing at your house.
We want a smooth election.
We want it smooth.
One comment I want to make, and I want to kind of speak for just the performance of these workers. Of course, we've seen them over years, right? We've seen this happen. You've all been through early voting. But the other thing I just want to say is, as this problem has arisen, I'm proud of the fact that these workers did not sit idly by. More than one has kind of grabbed us by the lapel pins and said, whether there's a lapel or not, and said, I need to talk with you about this right now. And that makes me very happy for our democracy, which needs people to grab people by the lapel pins to protect it. And I think that's a good thing. It's a good sign for us. And so anyway, I'm glad that we are fixing this. I'm going to keep knocking on wood up here till we go. Counselor Iverson.
And I have heard about this issue, of course, and thank you for calling, but I've also heard that President Deckard, you and Mr. McKim worked throughout the weekend on this very issue. So I think that goes to the credit of both of you, that you worked really hard to make sure that we found a solution to this, which was admittedly our mistake.
Well, you're kind on that, but I would note there were moments where Counselor McKim's work on this made me wish he had been at ballot proofing looking at his own name on that list and not me looking at mine. I'd given him the spot a few times. Counselor Hawk.
Yes, this is the reason why I think it's so important that we get to know the people who work in the departments.
Yes.
Because that makes us more approachable. They are comfortable calling you or coming up to you and saying, we have a problem. And they need to know that we are listening. And so we need to be approachable. And this makes a difference. And I think you probably can hear me saying, I hope that we'll listen to others who have said, we need your assistance. So, yes, I'm proud that we're stepping up. I'm sorry that we didn't get it right to begin with, but we're all saying we've got to fix this. But it's because we understand more about the elections. We're personally involved with that. We're not also personally involved with some of these other departments that we rely on. So.
All good points. All right, Counselor McKim.
Well, I just want to thank the clerk, Chief Deputy, Election Supervisor for bearing with us on our learning curve here and explaining to us and really helping us understand better. So.
Yeah. Counselor Wiltz.
I would just like to chime in to say thank you all for doing a job that I know is not easy, and you often are not, well, there just aren't enough of you doing them. You know, I think it would be a lot easier if there were more of you doing it, but you're all, I mean, every time someone comes to vote, somebody's there, and it's because of you. But my real comment was, I hope that this meeting is the most arduous process of the entire election season for you. That's what I'm going for.
That's a nice wish.
If I could just make a statement, the effective date of March the 5th is a Tuesday, which is the second half of a payroll period. So, if you wanted to make it an effective date of Monday, March the 4th, that would be a complete week.
Ask unanimous consent to make it March 4th?
Yes.
Yep. Yes. Do it.
Jesse. All right. If we'd had this much agreement on the consent agenda, my heavens, we'd be done. Anyway, I'm joking. All right.
Kate's getting.
I'm kidding. Okay. Let's go to public comment on this item. Again, come forward and that you hill or raise your hand on Teams. Seeing none, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley. Yes. Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, we'll move on to item C.
Council.
Oh, sorry.
Poor Jen.
Good form.
I got on animal print. Council, I move to approve the request to amend the 2024 salary ordinance and fund 1215-0062, election fund, election board, and add account line 17511, recruiter pay $200 per person per day, limited to one recruiter per day per political party.
You want to put an effective date on
Oh,
it,
yes,
then-
effective date, retroactive, March 4th.
Second.
Hey, look at that.
All right. Got a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion from council? Counselor Hawk?
Yes. Are we talking about for a 30-day period, a 60-day period, or an amount not to exceed, or is there something, or, I mean, so if we're talking about a 60-day period for two elections, for the primary and the general, you know, 6 times 2. And then if you can't count another 6 times 2, that's, I mean, is this really? Or do we say it's for 30 days, or do we have some way of having a cap on what it's supposed to be?
I think may need to hear from.
Yeah.
From the clerk's office.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ms. Moreland, do you think you could talk to some of Counselor Hawk's questions?
So our recruiters for this election, with it being a presidential, start 10 weeks before the election day. They work from that very first day all the way up until election morning recruiting people, because we have people that will drop out last minute and then we have to bring them in, get them trained, set them to a polling location and go. On that, they're working countless hours. They're on call. They're getting phone calls at random times of the day, random times of the night, emails that they're having to constantly answer. It's just that 10-week period that they're working on getting recruits.
It's just for the primary?
That's for both the primary and general.
No, I'm saying the 10 weeks is, you're saying the 10 weeks before the primary and another 10 weeks before
Correct.
the general.
Yep.
Okay, somebody look.
I already did. It's February 27th.
I'm saying look at the dollar amount.
So we're assuming that's 5 days a week?
I mean, we should say, what are we talking about?
It honestly depends, because they're basically on call. They get a phone call on a Saturday afternoon. They have to answer it to see who it is, what's going on, make sure that it's not somebody that's pulling out from being a poll worker. They're constantly working. They don't know when they're going to get a phone call or an email to be a poll worker.
I mean, I think somebody look at the total number here.
Is this a big change to what's been paid?
No.
Okay, so I'm not in.
An increase.
Yes, it's an increase, but it's the same. It's the per diem that they're still working each day, and how many days that week that they work.
I see. And the per diem is increasing from 140 to 200. So that's 60.
I mean, before I was hearing, well, it was 30 days before the election. Now it's like not even 60 days. It's
For presidentials, it's a larger amount of time to make sure that we have enough poll workers. If it's a municipal election, it's generally about 30 to 60 days, depending on how large of an election we're predicting it to be.
So if I'm hearing this right, just to clarify for the public or anyone else that would be watching, whatever was, let's say, 4 years ago, 2020 in that presidential race, whatever roughly that season for the recruiter was, we would have roughly that in 2024 with just added dollars per the motion that has been offered. Is that correct?
2020, the only thing is that it was a pandemic election, so it's not going to be the same amount of polling locations. It's not going to be the same amount of workers, so we can't look at that one. You would have to look back more at like 2016 in order for us to get a good estimate.
That's a really good point. Mr. Cockrell?
Yeah, and I don't know how relevant any of this is, but the last time we found any documentation for the time frame for these was 2015, and at that point it was 21 days. Now, 2015, if my memory serves me right, was probably a city election year.
It's a municipal, yeah.
Right, so that's kind of the only context I can give you as far as any documentation for the length. I do think it's an election board decision as to what that length of time is, and so, and I don't handle the election board, so I don't know what they've.
So if we were to do something here, we might run the risk of doing something that we may have done 2 weeks ago where we kind of put something.
I think all you're asking for today is the rate of pay question, right? So the rate of pay, I think, is totally the council's objective and discussion. I think it is higher than what it was before. So the consternation you received from that previous decision should not carry its way to you, because it's purely an increase in the level, and it's the same type of pay. I think part of the other issue was going from a per diem to an hourly and not knowing the number of hours. This is going per diem to per diem, so I don't think you have those kind of issues that kind of feels like everybody got tripped up on.
And just to make it clear, our recruiters this election started on March 11th. So if you were to approve this, it would date back to March 11th.
Your motion had an effective of 4th. So it would take care of it, right? Councilor Hawk?
So it seems to me that we're really just voting on what's going to happen in the primary, because we already know there's some other things in the works, something that happened in the legislation that we might have to do differently from the fall. So we're just.
I'm being told that's not applicable.
told.
I mean, I think I would say you are correct in the sense that we may want to rethink it after the dust clears from the election. We're not promising.
I don't want to pull the rug out from anything in the middle of this election. And why we're doing this right here now is just like beyond me. But
yes, I think that is the.
But it is rather a large jump, and I think we should just recognize, it's. And further, I so far haven't found any other county that does this at all. So regardless, it seems to work for here, and we don't always do what other counties do, no matter what WIS tells us. I'm just saying.
One note I would just make is, I think as this is, I'd keep, to me, just one council member, I think keeping this resolves the present question. I think if there's anything that is changing for anything associated with the fall, I'd recommend that this council, the clerk's office, the election board, have any of that done by about July 15th. Because I wouldn't go any later than that. I don't want to be back here like this.
Yep.
In fact, I won't be, because we're not gonna have people nervous about that. So July 15th is a nice warm time when people are on vacation, and we'll have that. If anything would change, I would do that by then. But for now, the March question, I think we have this before us.
Correct.
And I guess any other comments for council? All right. Let's see if the public has any comments. Again, come forward to the Nat U Hill or raise your hand on Teams. Okay. Let's go to a roll call vote.
I have another question, just how this works.
Question for Ms. Moreland or me?
I don't know. Maybe you have the answer.
Offer your
I don't know.
question.
So, and maybe it was part of the paperwork and I read it and didn't. Who hires these people? Is it an appointment by the party chair? Who? I'm sorry, I really don't.
No, I know this is super weird too. I know.
You already know the answer.
No, I mean.
So the recruiter is appointed by the chair. So the chair that they are corresponded with, they are appointed by them, and then the election board makes a final agreement, and they say, they end up doing the final vote during an election board meeting, announcing that is who is appointed as a recruiter.
The election board does officially ratify the appointment of the party chair.
They make the final, yes.
They make the final decision.
It's just the salary.
Apparently it goes back.
One thing, I think, I'm trying to figure out here, there's two former party chairs. One thing that party chairs do well is try to get other people to do some of their statutory whatever obligations. And I can remember a time in 2014 when recruiting for anything was a real dearth and a real mess. And I'm glad that that's not happening. I mean, right now I don't see announcements going out about sound the alarm. I see these people back here humming along getting this done. So there is a difference on that. And there used to be extended election board debates. I don't know if you all remember those back in the day about not having workers, the D's and the R's and the L's, and everybody else was fighting and everybody's pointing fingers, and I haven't heard that. And I don't want us to go back to that. That was awful. It was
Pretty
abysmal.
smooth.
This works.
It's been
Yeah.
pretty smooth, absolutely.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that a long time ago, and I'd say that is like 2015-ish, the party was having trouble collecting or getting the recruiters. And so they made an agreement to have, the board take it over or whatever it is. We discovered then they are paid, different. They are, through the party chairs and, that kind of thing. They're not even listed in the salary ordinance. They were being paid out of a line that was lead. So we just wanted to distinguish, and I say we, and that's Molly and I wanted to distinguish that they get a per diem for what they're doing because of their unique situation and the duties that they have to do, at all hours of the day. Making phone calls in the morning, but not receiving phone calls back until the evening time.
Yeah.
So that's why we are asking to make sure that this is included in the salary ordinance so that we can pay them accordingly.
Sure. And the old dread of not much happening in early voting back in the day was quite common. And then recruitment for election day was massive because that's when people, now that's all switched. It's all seasonal, right? Okay. I think we had a roll call vote. We're going to go to that.
Step down from the council and just be one of these recruiters.
I think
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson? And Counselor McKim? Motion passed unanimous.
It's only for 10
Okay.
minutes.
That is it for the clerk and absentee and election board requests. So thank you very much for everyone that came tonight and getting there.
No, they're not saying
I also want to make a
No, no,
note
no.
for the microphone
day,
while I'm doing
5
it.
days, touch
I had called for a meeting of the not the election board. I can't do that. I called for a meeting of the county council on Thursday at 5 p.m. in case this was not resolved, since we could not wait for that for early voting. Because this matter has, I believe, satisfactorily been resolved, that meeting will no longer occur. So here's that notice on that.
Okay.
We still have more here. Item 17.
I just had to extend my parking on the app.
Uh-oh.
All right. Council, I move to approve ordinance 2024-14, amending the food and beverage tax in Monroe County.
Second.
This was a tabled item at the request of the city of Bloomington 2 weeks ago, and Mr. Cockrell's got an update.
Yes, and I guess I won't go through it because I don't think anybody's shocked that the state legislature changed the code that this is involved with. I talked to Molly today. She had reached out to Margie Rice. Margie Rice, who is one of the city attorneys, the head city attorney. I forget her title off the top of my head. Corporate counsel, that's correct. She indicated that she had no concerns with the changes that are represented in this document. If you need me to go through it, I'm more than happy to, but Mr. McKim just had to extend the time on his car, so I think I'll keep it short unless you guys...
Oh, no.
Oh, please don't.
No. Counselors, did anyone have any questions about this as you considered it in your packet? Okay, I'm not seeing any. And so we'll go to comments from the public on this. Does the public wish to make a comment? Come forward to the Nat U Hill or raise your hand on Teams. I'm seeing none. We'll go to a roll call vote.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley? Yes. Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. We're going to move on
The
to
documents.
item 18.
Council, I move to approve Form 98P, prepayment purchase order to allow for an advance payment regarding the purchase of an Indiana Recovery Alliance van.
Second.
The auditor is going to make some comments.
Statute requiring that the council formally approve Form 98P, allowing for a prepayment, the deposit for this van so that the vendor can begin working on that. This is just another one of those housekeeping items, as you've already approved the appropriation and so forth. This is just one of those hoops that we need to jump through to follow all the guidelines.
All right. Comments, questions from council. Counselor Iverson.
I hope they get this van soon. This has been before us a lot of times, and it's going to do a lot of good work. So hopefully we get that on the road soon.
Other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll go to public comments. If you have them come forward in the Nat U Hill or raise your hand on Teams. Seeing none, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
No.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz? Yes. Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Motion passed, majority 6-1.
Based on the amended agenda, we're now at item 20, which is council comments. Due to an extension of Counselor McKim's parking app, you all each get 20 minutes. Raise your hand if you want to say
Campaign speeches.
No. Counselor Crossley.
I was just gonna say, I know a while ago that I had mentioned that one of the things that I wanted to do as counselor is to try to reach out to constituents on a level in which we can engage both city and county at the same time. And so that date has come, and that would be this upcoming Saturday, March 30th, starting at 1 p.m. at the Monroe County Public Library, room 2A, where myself, along with City Council Member at Large Isak Asari, we will have our joint meeting. So thought it would be a really good opportunity for the both of us, since sometimes we hear things where constituents will talk to me and it actually is a city thing, and constituents will talk to him about things that are related to, you know, county. So this is a good time for us to show true collaboration and to just, you know, listen to both city and county government alike. So again, that's this upcoming Saturday at 1:00 p.m. and going forward, as long as there's no other emergencies that I'm having, it will be 4th Saturdays of every month. So that is going to be a continuation. So come on out.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Counselor Crossley. Other council comments? Counselor Munson.
I have never signed so many documents of our votes. How many votes did we take? We didn't make that many votes. We have more paper than we ever made votes on.
Consent agenda.
Oh, was it your mortgage? I approved.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, the other thing, could I ask where they've all been? Like, all these came over behind me. It's like, I'm like this. We voted on something really important. I'm just like, what? I didn't even know what was on the floor. I was trying to read this.
I was trying to keep up and I couldn't.
Did we vote on what I thought was a really pretty important thing tonight? It was like, boom. And I'm going,
what was that?
Yeah, which one are you?
it was item 17, I think, right in the middle of all this paperwork.
This was the food and beverage
Yes.
ordinance amendment.
Yeah.
Yes,
We
but
didn't even discuss it. I
we-
mean, I was
but
over
we
here
did-
signing and it's like.
we
we're voting.
talked about it at the previous meeting and then postponed our vote until we heard back from the city.
I mean, it just kept going back and forth, and has there been any changes made? Well, I mean, we didn't even discuss this. Everybody voted on it, and I'm just signing papers.
Well, we discussed that it was statutory changes that were reflected in the new
Right.
resolution.
And I wanted to make sure that there was nothing any different from what I had seen before,
There wasn't.
and there wasn't. So we are right back, because normally we would have had a little discussion, but we didn't.
Okay.
Anyway,
Well,
I was
we
the one
did.
that asked to make sure this was changed so that we would be in alignment with what happened at the state. So as long as that is exactly what the state said, then you will. But, and even though it says, if I've read it right, that they still have to come before the Food and Beverage Tax Commission to ask for their advice, they do not have to follow it.
Correct.
Aren't we in?
But they have to show the respect of
comment?
asking the commission for the advice. Thank you.
Other council comments? I have one if no one does, but Councilor Wiltz, go. Sorry.
You too.
I got the jump.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine.
My council comment is, hello? My council comment is more of a suggestion that I'd like folks to think about, which is admittedly inspired by Councilor Crossley's innovative town hall kind of approach to meeting the community. And we were talking about it last week. And I would like to see council maybe do something either as a whole, where we have one day a month or so. I mean, it could be whatever we kind of come up with, where the point is to be more of a discussion with the public. And obviously we'd have to notice it, but I think it could be informal. It could be on a Saturday in the library. I mean, we could make it into something different than public comment in a meeting. And, you know, if we notice it and we're all, you know, interested / somewhat committed, if one of us can't make it, it continues, you know, that's fine. Or maybe we, you know, have an informal agreement that 3 or 4 go each time. But anyway, throwing it out there just for consideration. I don't have time to think about it between now and next month, but you know, something to chew on. Maybe, I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Bye.
I think anything that engages that public dialogue would be awesome. And that's where you get it. I mean, right now, it's just awesome. Let's make that a staff agenda item to make sure we're following up to get actionable items on that, and we can totally do it. The other thing is I want to make sure, Michelle, just on the record, that we ask for public comment on the consent agenda item when that comes up, because I think I missed that and I shouldn't have. One thing I wanted to say in closing comments is I want to thank the town of Ellettsville. You've all heard me gripe and moan and carry on a little bit long, but it was for a good cause, about rural transit in our community due to changes in how the state interpreted law. I'm pleased to say that last night, the town of Ellettsville voted to do a block grant of about $43,000 for funding rural transit through the end of the year. And I don't want to minimize the hard work that they did. They made good cases on why that was hard for them, but they worked alongside the county to figure out where that would come from. And it was a big deal, just like we worked to figure that out. So I just want to say, it's important when folks do great things, we also recognize that. So to our friends over there, William Ellis, Scott Oldham, Dan Swafford, Trevor Sager, and Pam Samples on that town council, we are grateful for your work on that. We're also committed to figuring out this long term. This is just for a year. We have massive things to figure out long-term, and they have indicated long-term they cannot do that. So we've got to figure it out. So we'll be back to that. But for now, let's celebrate that fact. So that's what I got. Counselor Hawk, you had something.
Oh, I just wanted to make a little discussion. We aren't going to be back together before the great dark night, right?
It's in the day, Marty.
On a roll.
It's in the day.
Just for a few minutes.
So I'm just trying to figure out what has the employees, what's their schedule? I don't even remember what day they are.
You're off.
Holiday.
And so we're not expected to be someplace at a meeting like the next day or the day before.
We have a meeting scheduled on the 9th, I believe.
Well, I'm not gonna. They've already been telling us we're not gonna get any place for a day or so. So I think anything important.
Oh, they'll be out of here by.
Yeah,
by
right. Well, come
Tuesday
and
night.
say I'm right under the exact spot. It's
Oh, party at Marty's house.
Party at Marty's.
yeah, it's coming to my house. See, there's another thing.
I know. There's another one.
One thing I'll say,
You gotta
much
count
like
those.
our esteemed Deputy Hines back there, we will monitor and adjust as necessary and be vigilant, and we'll do it.
If we see a crush at 3:30 on that Tuesday, then we might reconsider. But I don't think that's gonna.
I'm not gonna fight the traffic.
Well, you can participate by Zoom or
We've
by
done a lot
Teams.
tonight.
We have done a lot.
With that, let's go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doc.